Hello and welcome to Lard TV for this our inaugural gameplay. What we decided to do today is we're going to play Sharp Practice, and we decided to take a game from one of our scenario supplements, the Swamp Fox, which is covering the Southern Theatre in the American War of Independence, or American Revolution if you prefer that. It's a scenario set on the Black Mingo River, and the date is the 28th of September 1780, with Marion the Swamp Fox about to take on a mixed force of Loyalist troops and British regulars. What we'd like to do is play through this game, let you see not only the scenario, which is one of my favourites, but also see how Sharp Practice plays through, which is easy for me to say. Okay, so without further ado, let's have a look at the forces involved so you can get an idea of the size of game that Sharp Practice is designed for. So here we are on the rebel side. We've got Colonel Francis Marion with two groups of 10 newly recruited militia, the Lower Craven County militia in fact, and alongside them we've got Captain Waits with a group of rebel skirmishers. The main force actually is bigger unit there, 3 groups of 8 militia, but these are veteran rebel militia. What we've done there, just to show that, is to mix in a few Continentals in among them to give them a feel of a bit more regularity, but generally it's come as your dressed party. So they're commanded by Major Hugh Horry and Captain Henry Mouzon. And then finally we've got another group of rebel skirmishers there under Captain Robert McCottery, a group of 6 rebel militia skirmishers. Now some of these troops have got the mounted option, but actually Nick has decided that he's going to have them all deploy on foot. So slightly stronger force, but all militia, so we'll see how they fare. So here we have the main British force. We've got Colonel John Ball, who is commanding 2 groups of 10 Loyalist militia. Colonel Ball is probably self-appointed to that rank and a member of the local aristocracy. And alongside them we've got another group of 10 militia under Captain Cameron McGregor. They again are Loyalist militia. Fairly rough force so far. To support them we have Lieutenant Parsons and a group of 8 British regulars from the 63rd Foot, and alongside them we have a group of 6 skirmishers under Sergeant Dowling, also from the 63rd Foot.
So we have a great little table lined up for today, straight out of the scenario book.
Yeah.
It looks fantastic. We've got some trees, nice river down the side. Rich, tell us what's happening here.
Okay, well let's have a detailed look at the table and we can talk you through exactly what's going on. As I said, this scenario is set in 1780. What's happened is that the British have more or less won the campaign in the south, and many of the rebellious folk have resworn allegiance to the crown, and that was that in the hopes of the British. However, men like Francis Marion, were determined to continue the fight and basically took to the swamps, recruiting men as they went in the hope of gaining more and more support so they could strike back against the British. In this situation, Major Wemyss of the 63rd Foot have gone on a spree of destruction, seeking to punish those who've broken their sworn allegiance to the crown. And Marion has decided to return to this area to take on the Loyalists because he needs some kind of propaganda victory in order to keep his cause alive. At the Red House Tavern on the Black Mingo River, we have a party of Loyalists who are reinforced by a small group of regulars from the 63rd, keeping the King's Highway open and the ford over the river, and Marion has decided to take them on. Now, as we'll see, Marion's forces have got not just their own deployment marker, but they've got a movable deployment marker as well, so Nick's going to have a choice there where he places that. The British are all deploying from the tavern, which quite frankly is a very sensible place to start any game. Let's take a look at the game deck. Of course, Sharp Practice is a card-driven game, which helps, we feel, to create a real narrative that players can enjoy. Here, very, very simple forces. The British, who are taking the red cards, have got 4 red leaders and 4 red flags. And the Americans, or the rebels, depending on how you see them, have got 5 blue leaders and 4 blue flags. And of course, we've got the tiffin card in there, which is going to tell us when each turn ends. Okay, so before we start the game, we're just going to do a little bit of housekeeping. The first thing we're going to do is roll for our force morale to see where we stand in that respect. It'll be an interesting one actually, because both of us have got a lot of militia in our forces, which means we're both going to get a pretty hefty minus to our roll. Now, the interesting thing there is it's really reflecting the way that regular troops are going to be up for the fight, but when things start to go wrong, they're going to likely run away quicker than regular troops would do. But there we go, let's roll the dice. Nick, why don't you go first? Let's roll a d6 and see where we get. Okay, so Nick rolled a 4. Let's see what I roll. Okay, so 3 for me. Now, interestingly, because of the heavy amount of militia in our forces, more than half of both of our forces are militia, means that we both apply a -2 to that. So the net result is that we're on 1 and 2, which actually means that our force morale is equal at the start of the game. We both start with a force morale on 9. So what we'll do is we'll go to our force morale tracker and we'll mark that. It's really important, the force morale tracker, because this game is not about killing everybody, killing all your opponents. It's about destroying their will to fight. It's about getting them to the point where they say, I don't like it here, I'm going to go home. So it's that tipping point that you read about and hear about in military accounts. Okay, so we've given the deck a good shuffle. We're ready to start our game. We know what our force morale is. We know what our deployment points are. But actually, before we do that, Nick, you've got one big and important thing to do. You've got a movable deployment point. Now, you don't have to start the game with your 2 deployment points together. You can deploy one of those up to 24 inches away from your original deployment point, but more than 30 inches away from mine. So let's have a look at the table and you can tell us what you're going to do with that.
Okay, now my options here then are that from this position here with the main deployment point, this secondary one can be anywhere within 2 feet or even 24 inches of this, which gives me a nice little arc from there round to here. However, I need to make sure that it also stays outside of 30 inches from the tavern, which measuring from there actually means that although I might like to be able to deploy it in this central wooded area, I can't. And it means that actually my 2 only real options are to be in the woods over here, to the left of the Americans as they advance, or down here on the side of the riverbank. And I think the woods gives me the much better option, so I'm going to go for 24 inches in this direction in the woods here.
So the swamp fox is sticking to the swamp.
We think that's our best tactic. I don't want to get stuck the other side of the river, but the woods actually give me a natural advantage, so I want to be in there. Gives me a chance to come round this side and perhaps outflank you a bit from the tavern as well.
Yeah, absolutely, because when your leader's card comes out, you're going to be able to move that until the point you decide to deploy from it. So that's a real flexible tool to have. You could be sneaking around the outside and at least posing a threat to me. It may be you choose not to deploy from there, but the fact that it's there is something I can't ignore.
Cunning, like a fox.
Like a fox. Let's get the game started. We'll put the deck down, we've given them a shuffle as we've seen,
Okay.
and the first card out. It's blue, the writing's in blue, the number's blue, it's blue, leader 5. Now, who's that?
Blue leader 5 is on the rebel side, and he is Captain McCrotchery.
Okay, and what's he commanding, Nicholas?
So he has the pleasure of commanding a group of 6 rebel militia skirmishers who are potentially mounted, in fact.
Right, they are. Now, I believe that you've chosen, actually, because there are some options with this scenario to go with some mounted troops. I believe you've taken the option to keep them on foot. So where are you going to bring them on the table now? Because the thing is, you've got the option, but you don't have to. You can decide you want to keep that up your sleeve. If maybe they're one of the groups that you think might be good working their way around the flank through the swamp, then the best thing to do is to leave them on there.
Yeah, and I'm actually going to bring them on, because I quite like the idea of them being able to snipe at you from the patch of trees up by the ford.
Okay, great. Now, one of the things about sharp practice is the deployment distance from the deployment point varies, and for these skirmish troops they can deploy 9 inches from there, or they can add another 6 inches if they're out of line of sight of my troops or my deployment point. So that could give you up to 14 inches option from there. So let's go and have a look at that unit and see where you're going to deploy them on the table.
Now, because my marker is within line of sight of the tavern, I'm only going to be able to deploy 9 inches from this deployment point. So I'm going to just put these guys across the ford, 9 inches, running the way across, hopefully getting into those trees as soon as they can.
Yeah. Those trees count as light cover, which is great for your irregular skirmishers, because these guys are not as good as trained light infantry, but if they're firing out of cover, they are really good. These are backwoodsmen, largely, really good, know their weapons well. But that little copse there doesn't break line of sight, but it does count for cover. So that's our first unit on the table. Let's have a look at the next card out. So there's our first card. Let's see what the next one out is. Okay, interesting. It's a red flag. I've got 4 red flags in the deck, as has Nick. We've got 4 blue ones. These are great. We can use them to either activate units that haven't yet been activated, or we can use them to enhance the performance of our troops when they are activated. Now at the moment I haven't got anybody on the table. I can't bring troops on just one card, so I'm going to leave that in the open. That remains in play, and we just deal the next card. Blue flag, same again. So let's put your flag pile there.
And I think what we'll find, what you should see as the game progresses, is that our ability to do things on the tabletop will be greatly influenced by what flags we have available to us.
Yeah, totally right.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, great. What's the next one out? Well, leader 4, red leader 4.
Okay, he's one of yours.
Now,
red
he
leader
is
4.
one of mine, yeah. He's a pretty hefty guy, him.
Is he?
He's commanding my light infantry troops.
He's a sergeant, and he's in charge of your light infantry skirmishers from the 63rd Foot.
Okay, good. Well, I'm pleased to get them on the table, because they're one of my better units. Having got a lot of loyalist militia, these guys are better units. So let's have a look at where we're going to deploy them on the table. Okay, so here are my British light infantry. I can deploy anywhere within 9 inches of that deployment point in the tavern. I could deploy out here and get a clean shot down the road and start taking on Nick's irregular skirmishers. And in fact, I think that's exactly what I'm going to do. Now, one of the reasons for that is that my troops are light infantry, and they get all the benefits of firing when they're in the open. Nick's troops don't, because they need to be in cover to get that benefit. However,
and this just reflects the level of training difference between the two bodies, really.
It certainly does. So I'm making a point of deploying in a situation where I'm going to be within 2 foot of you. So let's see how that goes. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 guys here, and the leader. So let's get our dice out and roll the dice. Okay, so first things first, I get 2, 4, 6 dice for the men who are firing. I then add 1 because the leader is a status 1 leader. And what I'm going to do, because I really want to get a good effect on you, is I'm going to play that card and add 1 more firing dice to see what I can do. So the range here is 24 inches, which means I'd normally hit on a 6. But I'm light infantry skirmishers, which means I add 1. So I'm going to hit on a 5. And it's my first shot, so I get a bonus for that. So I'm going to hit on a 4. So I'm rolling my 8 dice, and I'm hoping to do some damage to you because you're standing out there. Now that is a total pile of rubbish. So 1 hit on you, Nicholas.
I'm going to roll for the effect of this hit now. Because these are skirmish troops, they count as using the best available cover that they have available to them. So actually they're going to count as light cover, even though on the face of it we might look at them and say that they're in the open. Because they're skirmishers, they get a benefit. So I'm going to roll 1 dice for 1 hit. If I roll a 6, that means I've got a man dead. A 4 or 5 means that I'll take a point of shock. And a 1, 2, 3 means no effect. Let's hope I roll low. And I've rolled a 6, of course. So unfortunately, somebody's got a musket ball right in the head. So we're going to see the effect of that hit now, take that casualty off. But because I've got a leader with this unit, actually the first thing we need to do is to see if that hit was on the leader. So I'm going to roll a dice now. I need to roll, for me I need to roll high, but if I roll a 1, it may be that hit was on the leader. I rolled a 5, so the hit was actually on the unit. So unfortunately I just take off one of these guys who's out of the game.
So my light infantry may be a 1-hit wonder, but it was 1 hit that counted, certainly. So we'll move straight on to the next card in the deck. And we've got leader 1, which is Marion the Swamp Fox himself.
C'est moi.
And he's got 1 flag available. Now his force would deploy within 6 inches of a deployment point. 9 inches is for skirmish troops, so 6 inches would be for him. So if he wanted to deploy now with his ragged militia, they could deploy on column on the road, coming over the ford, or they could deploy over in the woods.
Yeah.
Or you might decide that you don't want to bring them on the table yet because you're keeping your powder dry. It's up to you. What are your thoughts?
Well, what I'd like to be able to do is move my flexible deployment point.
You can certainly do that.
And use this card to do that.
Right,
because
okay.
he's the main leader,
Yeah.
so that's the card that I can use to do that with.
Absolutely. So that movable deployment point can now move 12 inches, and you could then deploy from that if you wanted.
Let's see where that takes me.
Yeah, absolutely. So remember, you've got to keep out of line of sight of any of my troops, or we will force you to deploy from it or throw it away.
Okay, so I'm going to bring this marker forward 12 inches, which is making sure I stay outside from you, so straight up the table edge. Enables me to put it in here, just behind these trees. Don't know if you can see it there, just where my fat finger is. Still more than 4 inches from the edge of the wood, and probably not yet where I want to deploy from. I'd quite like to get another move in before I do that.
Okay, so Nick has kept his powder dry there, as he says, but I'm very aware of that force moving around through the swamp. He's also not used his flag card, so that remains in play. My flag that I did use, I put back in the deck, and we'll turn the next card and see what it is. Well, it's another red flag, so again, I can't use that on its own, so we move straight, but it does remain in play. So we move straight on to blue leader 4. Now that's, I believe, one of your subordinate leaders, Nick.
Yeah, he's one of my subordinate leaders with my, what you might call my main column. And so I'm not going to be able to bring him on, or I could, but only with one group of that column.
Yeah, Nick's got a large force of militia, 3 groups strong. They've got 2 leaders, a more senior one and a more junior one. This is the subordinate of the 2. If he comes on, he'd have to come on with part of that force. But I think probably Nick is keeping his powder dry to bring that force on as one big unit and try and maximise its firepower rather than frittering them early and bringing them on with.
Yeah, it's just a decision, isn't it? I could have brought him on with a flag and done something
Yeah.
with that flag, but actually, let's just wait and see.
Let's do that. Well, let's have a look at my next card. Next card is another red flag. I've got 2 red flags out at the moment. That would allow me to activate any unit that's already on the table that hasn't yet been activated, but it doesn't allow me to bring anybody on, so I'm going to leave that there. And we're going to use the next card, blue leader 3. Well,
great.
There's your massive column.
Yeah, potentially that is my massive column. And the question now is, do I want to bring that massive column on the road behind my already deployed skirmishers, or do I want to better deploy them from over here eventually out of the woods? Well, I could choose to do that now, but actually I'd like this jump off marker to be further forward, this deployment point.
Deployment, yeah.
Tough choice, but I'm going to wait again.
Okay, right, so understand that. The game, again, it's all about command choices. Next card out is a blue flag. So again, two blue flags would allow you to immediately deploy one unit already on the table, or at the end of the turn to deploy two units not yet been activated in this turn and already on the table. But at the moment, we're still at that early phase in the battle.
And we know that somewhere in the deck is the tiffin card,
we do,
which will mark the end of the turn. So we've both got two flags out. That could give us some interesting options when that tiffin card does arrive, which I hope is right now.
and it is. Right, interesting. Interesting end of the first turn. Once the tiffin card's played, all the cards go back in the deck other than the flag cards. And the funny thing is, the flag cards don't give us any options at the end of the turn because all the units on the table have already been activated, and these don't allow you to bring troops on. It only allows you to activate and influence troops already on the table.
But for me, at least I had the options to do things with my leaders, whereas you only had the chance to do one thing. So I'm feeling, although I've had one casualty, I've had the chance to move my flexible deployment marker. I'm quite happy to go for the next turn.
Your flexible
see what
friend.
clairvoyance I can bring to the game this time around.
Indeed, it's like gaming with Mystic Meg. Right, okay, so straight
I see
on.
blue, red, and number 2 could be lucky too.
No, you're completely wrong, Meg. It's a red flag out, so nothing I can do with one red flag at the moment. And the next card is a blue flag. Nothing you can do with one blue flag. Next one is a blue flag. Now, you've got an interesting choice here. You've got two blue flags. You could activate your skirmish troops if you wanted. Not the leader, just the skirmish troops. But that's okay, because you don't have any shock or anything like that.
Yeah.
Or you could decide that, well, you know, if the tiffin comes out, I can always activate them in a moment. I might as well leave that there and maybe do something a bit more important with it. Fancy activating them, or...?
No, I'm going to be brave and hold.
Tough it
my
out.
luck hold, yeah.
All right, okay, fine. Tiffin. Well,
great.
You've got two blue cards.
Yeah.
I've got one red card. That means you activate one unit first. Now, you've only got one unit on the table, so you'll be activating those guys.
I will, so I'm going to go down there and we're going to get those guys into some cover.
Let's see what's going to happen there and how that works.
Okay, so I'm going to move these guys up. Now, they're skirmishers, so they would normally have 2 actions, but because they're skirmishers, they get 3 actions. So I'm going to move with 2 dice here and move however many inches that gives me, in the hope that I can then use a 3rd action to fire. Okay, so let's see what happens. Hopefully, well, 5 is not great, but just about enough to get me into these trees, I hope, just about.
Yeah, those trees will give you cover. The interesting thing is, yeah, all units get 2 actions, but skirmish troops always get a bonus movement action on top. It just allows you to advance and fire, or to retreat and fire. But yeah, so those guys have taken up position in the wood and in that little copse of trees, and they're going to fire now on my light troops. Now let's have a look at the range. We're going to see there that it's over 12 inches, because again, you're musket armed. So you've got 5 guys there, because you're activating the unit rather than the leader. So you're going to be rolling 5 dice, and you're going to be hitting on 6 normally, but because your light troops firing from cover, that's going to make that 5. And do you get first fire? Well, we look at that particular unit and we discover that you do get a first fire bonus, so that goes down to 4. So you're going to be rolling those dice. So roll me 5 dice, 4, 5 or 6 to hit.
How many dice?
5 dice. You've got 5 guys there. And remember, because you're activating the unit, this isn't the leader firing. So
I'll make that 3 hits.
That's 3 hits.
Which is a nice tidy roll for me.
That is. So I'm going to have to roll for that. But what's interesting here is that you've used all 2 actions of movement that you could have, and you fired. So that unit is unloaded. So we're going to put a little bit of puff of smoke in front of that unit to show that they are unloaded. So Nick's popping
see
that
that there
in
on
there.
the camera.
Yeah. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I've got 3 dice here. These guys are in the open, but remember, just as we had with Nick's skirmish troops, they're taking advantage of all the cover that there is, so they count as being in light cover. So a 1, 2 or 3 is a miss, a 4 or 5 is shock, and a 6 is a kill. So we'll roll the dice and see what happens. So we got 1 man dead and 1 point of shock. Now I'm immediately going to roll now for see if it's my leader, and if it's a 1, it will be. Good Lord, it is. So your marksmen firing from the woods have taken my leader, but let's see what the effect is, because ordinary men, when they get hit, we're not that bothered, but for leaders, we want to see what happens to them. He's rolled a 3, which means he's knocked out. He's temporarily out of the game, so he can't use his command ability to influence that unit. So that's potentially important. And what we're also going to do is we're going to use one of these fabulous universal tokens to reflect that there's 1 point of shock on that unit. So unfortunately for me, that's Sergeant Dowling down. That means we take a force morale test, because this is one of those punctuation marks in the game where bad things happen, to put it politely. So I'm going to roll a dice. I've rolled a 2, which means my force morale remains the same. So my force morale is still at 9. If he'd been killed, it would have been likely to have been worse effect than that, but at the moment it just means my force morale stays on 9 and my force carries on regardless. Okay, but of course I've got my red card, so I'm going to activate that unit and fire back. Once again, I've got 6 men there, so I'm rolling 6 dice. 1 point of shock doesn't make any difference at this point in time. If I had 2 points of shock, I'd be losing one of these firing dice, but I'm not going to. So I need 6, and I now need 5 to hit. I don't get that first fire bonus. So I really want to do some damage here, and I've got 3 hits on Nick's guys. Now they're in light cover, so because they're skirmish troops, that goes up. So Nick is going to be rolling 3 dice, treating them as though they're in hard cover, which means they will shock on a 5, die on a 6, and no effect on 1, 2, 3 and 4. Okay, so 3 rolls of 4 means no effect at all. That's the end of that turn, and we'll get on with the next turn. Okay, so quick shuffle, and we're back in action. First card out. Oh, Mr. Peevely, the Bears have escaped again. It's Big Red 1. And that is my colonel with his militia troops, isn't it?
Colonel John Ball, no less.
Indeed. And he's going to be coming out the bar ready for a fight, which in many ways... Okay, let's move on.
Again.
Typecast again. Let's move on and have a look where he's going to deploy. Okay, I've got some decisions to make here. I can deploy within 6 inches of there, which would allow me to go around that side. So I could think about shooting those guys up. Or I could start thinking about deploying over here, worrying about what Nick's doing there. But to be honest with you, I'm thinking jam today rather than jam tomorrow. And I'm going to deploy these guys in a line here. And they are going to fire at your skirmishers in the Magic Woods. So those guys there, they're within 6 inches of that. And they're going to put down fire there. They're not great troops. But they do get a first fire bonus, which I'm hoping is going to help them, because this is long range. 12 inches, they'd be hitting on 4s, 5s and 6s. Over 12 inches, they're just hitting on 6s. But because it's their first fire, they're going to be hitting on 5s and 6s. And they're going to be chucking out quite a lot of dice. They roll 9 dice, they're poor shots, so they lose a dice. So they're going to be rolling 18 dice, and they're under the control of their colonel. So he's going to be adding his dice to that as well. So let's go and have a look at us rolling big bucket of dice. Okay, so I've got 18 dice in here, and John Ball, the colonel, is status 2, so we're going to add his 2 dice. That's going to make it 20. I really want to get these guys out of this wood, so I'm looking for 5s and 6s. Let's see how I do. And we've got 1, 2, 3, 4. Not great, but the first volley is the important one, so that's 4 hits on Nick's guys in the wood. Let's hope I do some damage. Nick, let's see you roll those 4 dice.
So 4 hits. I want to roll low because I don't want to have anybody left in that unit. And I've rolled 3 dice really nice and lowly. So I've got a 1, a 2 and another 2. But I have a 6. Now 6 sadly means that we've got another guy who's bitten the bullet. So we need to make sure that that's not the leader again.
But we don't in this situation, unusually. When you're being fired at by line troops, you need to roll under the number of kills. And you can't, even you, and even I can't roll under 1. So as that's line troops, it's not the leader, it's just going to be one of your men.
But it does mean that that's another casualty off. And what started off as 6 healthy skirmishers is now just 4.
But I have used my first fire bonus, and those guys really are not the best of troops in the world. You'll note that what's happened there is they've fired with their first action, and with their second action they've reloaded, so there's no need to put any smoke down in front of those because they fired and reloaded. That's their 2 actions. Okay, let's see the next card out. So red flag, nice one, followed by blue 5. Now
Okay.
blue 5, that's your skirmishers, isn't it? In the wood. These guys are active little bunnies, aren't they?
They need to be at the moment,
They
so
do.
they're unloaded at the moment. So the first thing really he needs to do is get them to reload and then put some more fire in.
Yeah, so what he can do is, with their first dice, they'll reload, with their second dice, they'll fire. So just leave the smoke in front of them. So you've got 4 men firing, plus he's a status 1 leader, so that's 5 dice. The question is, who are you going to fire at? Because you've got a choice here. You could be firing at my lights, or you could be firing at my lines.
I think we'll fire at the line. I think that gives us a better target.
Yeah, okay, fine. Well, let's see you roll those 5 dice, Nicholas.
Okay, so 5 dice, let's see what we get. Oh, that's not bad at all, I would say.
5 to hit, yeah, you're rolling again. It's long range, so you need 6, but you get that skirmishing bonus because you are irregular skirmishers firing from cover, so you've got 3 hits.
Great.
Now, because you're firing on this formation, we're going to split those hits between those, and you get a choice where you're going to put the 2 hits. And I presume you're going to put the 2 hits on the group with the leader, because there's more risk of you killing him. So we'll roll 2 for them. So a 3 and a 2. Well, they're in the open, which means that that's inflicted 1 shock. So if you could pass me a shock marker. And the other group there on the formation, that's a 4, so that's a shock as well. So just starting to chip away at that unit, because my leader's there. He's only a status 2 leader, so if he wanted to rally that unit when he's activated, he could do so, but he wouldn't be doing it with the ability to then activate them to fire. So,
and that's really what I want my light troops to do, is to start building up shock on that line and make it just less able for them to make a difference.
okay, so the next card out is a red flag. Oh, interesting. I've got 2 red flags on the table. That means that I could activate my light infantry now, but if tipping came up immediately, I'd still be able to do that. So I don't see the benefit. But at any point, I could pick these up and interrupt now.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to leave that there and see what the next card is. Leader 4. Well, interestingly, that's my light infantry leader. Now he's down, and he doesn't test this turn to see whether he gets up. Next time he's activated, he will. So he has no effect at this point in the game. The next card out is Red Leader 2. Now that's an important one, because Red Leader 2 is another one of my militia commanders, and he's going to be deploying from the tavern where they've clearly been spending too much time. Again, I've got the 6-inch restriction, so I'm going to be placing them out the front of the tavern here, with a view to facing off whatever's coming round the outside in that Buffalo Girl manner. Okay, well, we've got Cameron McGregor here and his loyalists, and they're just going to deploy out the front here, ready to take on anybody who might emerge from the swamps over on that side. So that's that card played. What I would potentially like them to do is to present getting ready to fire a controlled volley, which I completely forgot to do with these guys. The difference is these guys are trained enough to do it, but these guys aren't. So I can't even do that. So they're just going to stand there gawping towards the swamp. So, next card out. So that's Blue Leader 3. Nick, what are you going to do with that?
My leader 3 is one of my leaders of a militia unit. But again, I want him to be able to deploy down this side where I'm sneaking through the swamp. So for the moment, I'm doing nothing.
Okay, next card out then. Oh, red flag. I've got 3 red flags in a row there, which would allow me to deploy a unit and their leader on the table. And I do have 1 further unit that I would like to get on the table as quickly as possible, because that's my unit of British regulars. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use that to bring them on. Let's see where they go. Okay, now I've got Lieutenant Parsons here and 1 group of 8 British regulars. They've got to deploy from here still. But what I'm going to do, because of all these intervening troops, I'm actually going to allow them to deploy an extra 6 inches away and put them over here near the camp. Because that, with those intervening troops, this breaks their line of sight, and there's no line of sight from there because Nick's movable deployment point is not within 4 inches of the edge of the swamp. So these guys are moving out here. So what I've done is I've activated this leader with 3 cards, and he's come on with his unit. Not in the ideal position, but he's at least facing where I think and let's face it, in a normal game I wouldn't know this, but what Nick is telling us is going to be his main force. Okay, so the next card out is a red flag. Well, I've already used those. Intriguingly, had I left that there, I'd have had 4 red flags, which would allow me to activate a unit that's already been activated. I could have given you guys another blast from my raggedy line of loyalists, but it was not to be. And
never mind.
What I also want to do is to be able to activate my skirmishes at the end of the turn, and this card's going to allow me to do this. Blue card is the next one out. So let's see, after that...
2 flags.
2 flags in a row. Now if we get 3 flags in a row, and we just have, we're going to have a random event.
So they're flags of any colour. Well, first one was red, and the 2 and 3 were blue.
That's right. Now, if the last unit activated moved or fired, then there will be a random event. But the last unit that activated only deployed, so that doesn't count as moving. So we ignore that and move on. Leader 1, I think that is the card that you have been looking for, Nicholas.
That is the card that I've been wanting. So this now enables me to move my deployment marker up, further up through the woods, and bring some guys on, hopefully, as well.
So really what you want to do is get that to point within 6 inches of the edge so that you can deploy out in a formation.
Okay.
So that means that leader 1 can deploy. So shall we have a look? Let's bring the camera around so we get a good chance to have a look at where you are and see what you're going to do with that force, and you can talk us through what you're going to do and how you're going to deploy.
Okay, so from the woods emerges the Swamp Fox, and with him he's bringing 2 groups of 10 men militia, newly raised militia, not experienced guys, but enough for him to bring into the fight and to take the war to the Redcoats. So we deploy him out on the end of the line and then bring his units on alongside. So 1 from there, just moving outside of there.
So again, they can deploy within 6 inches of that.
And 1 there. So we're moving out and forming a
formation
as best we can. From there. Now we probably are within musket range of just about within musket range there, but actually it's not to our advantage to fire at long range. I want to try and get up close, and we've probably only got 1 or 2 decent volleys in us that we can give out there. So we're going to move up close, hopefully, and deliver those. But at least we've got some men on the table, and we can take the action to you.
Okay, so you've got 2 flags on the table. Interestingly, if you got another 2 flags, 4 flags, you'd be able to activate Francis Marion again and move them, and that could really put me under a lot of pressure. But fortunately for me, the next card out is the Tiffin card. So you've got 2 flags that allows you to activate 2 units that haven't yet been activated. Well, you've activated everybody on the table.
Everybody's had an activation on my side.
They go straight back in the deck.
But there's a red card left.
I've got a red flag, and that allows me to activate a unit that's not yet been activated, and my light troops are stood out there. Now I've got a choice. I could use them to fire, or I could move them. But I think I really want to clear those skirmishers out, so I'm going to try and put some pressure on you by shooting them up. They don't have a leader, so they're just going to be rolling 6 dice, but that's going to be enhanced, so I'm still going to be hitting on 5s. So a couple of hits, you know, if I'm lucky, do a bit of damage. That unit's starting to look creaky.
It is. You lost 2 men already.
Yeah, let's see where we go with that. But I have to be aware that you're on my flank. Let me get the dice and we'll take that opportunity to try and stuff you.
Nice.
Okay, so we've got 6 dice. We're rolling them now. We're looking at 5s and 6s. Oh, just 1 hit. Just 1 hit. But roll your dice, Nick. It's those 1 hits that so often are the ones that do the damage.
So far, this one now.
Well, this one hasn't. Right, okay.
Good.
So that ends that turn of play. Let's have a quick extra shuffle of that deck before we start this turn. Things are getting exciting. We're getting to the point where you're putting a bit of pressure on me there. I've got to hope my cards are coming out so I can react to that. Let's try turning them the right way up. Blue leader 2. Ooh.
Okay, so blue leader 2 isn't on the table yet, but I think he's probably about to appear.
I think he might just do that.
So
he's a skirmish. Another group of skirmishers.
He's got another group of skirmishers, absolutely. So these are rebel militia skirmishers under Captain Waits, who are going to come on over this side now.
Terry.
Yep, that's him. Right. Big guy with a beard.
Yeah, okay, fine. So where are you going to deploy them, Nick?
Okay, so these are skirmishers. Now they're really effective troops for me. I've got 2 options, I guess. 3 really. I could deploy them to the left of my line here and put some fire on the redcoats. The only issue being that the redcoats are actually out of effective range for these guys, who fire better when they're in closed terrain. So I actually want to keep them in cover. Option 2 would be to put them out in front of my line here, where they'd act as skirmishers obviously and could fire, but again not from cover, so wouldn't be as effective. And the third option is to deploy from this area here, where actually we are in cover and we've got effective range to be able to shoot at the side of the light infantry. Now I like that option, so I'm going to go and put them there. So we've got a group of skirmishers coming down in here, this position there, with Captain on as well.
The interesting point worth mentioning here is that these light troops have got a frontage that runs straight through along that line there. If Nick was behind that, any hits on them would double shot, because troops do not like fire coming in from around their rear. However, he wouldn't be firing from cover, so he wouldn't get his bonus to hit. So he's probably taken the right decision to just shoot in what is their frontal 180-degree arc. So Nick, you're going to be rolling there. Is he a status 1 leader with those guys?
He is a status 1 leader,
right,
yes.
So you've got 6 guys plus a status 1 leader. That's 7 dice in total. So let's give you those 7 dice.
There are no additional bonuses for first fire or anything like that?
Yeah, you do get that, but you don't get extra dice for that. So you're firing at a range of over 12 and under 24. So you'd normally hit on a 6, but you get a +1 for being skirmish troops, so that takes you down to 5, and a +1 for first shot. So 4s, 5s and 6s are hitting.
Well, that's another great roll for me. There's only 1 4 in there.
Nearly as good as my first shot with my light troops. So what I'll do is I'll move them out the way, I'll roll my dice, but they count as being in light cover, so that's another point of shot. So what we'll do is we'll use another universal token to put another point of shock on them. So a couple of points of shot there means that when those light troops fire, they're going to be reducing the number of dice they use by 1. So as shot mounts up, it affects movement and it affects firing ability, just a general degrading of the troops. But, so, pretty effective force coming out there on my flank. How am I going to counter it? Can I counter it at all? That's the question. Okay, so the next card out is Red 3, which is Lieutenant Parsons of the Regulars. Important man for me. What I'm going to do with him is I'm going to move him forward as fast as I can. What I don't want to do, however, is end up in the arc of fire of the American troops. So let's have a look at that happening on the table. Okay, what I want to do is move these guys. One of the things I'm very aware of is that the militia are not very manoeuvrable, and being in a formation, their arc of fire is strictly limited to what's straight ahead of them. These guys here are just one group, So actually, the fact that we've got them rather tidily on this movement base isn't what they're doing. They're actually just together in more of a mob formation. So what we'll do is we'll move them with 2d6. They've only gone 4, but I'm keen to be getting out of the angle of fire of those troops. That's a disappointing move for me, only going 4 inches. But there we go, that's an issue about how long it takes to react to things and so on and so forth. So now we're going to move on to the next card. Okay, so our next card is blue 4.
Blue leader 4. Now he is not on the table yet actually, and he is my second commander again with the other unit that I have. So because he's a secondary leader, I can only bring on one of the 3 units he's with. So I'm going to hold off with him. I think it's my best option.
You're thinking, where's these guys now? They're lost in the swamp, aren't they?
They are lost in the swamp.
This is the narrative that the card-driven system produces. Right, a red flag. That's important for me because at least I can get my light troops to do something at the end of the turn. Blue flag. Well, is the next one out going to be a flag? If so, we've got a random event. Fortunately for me, it's not. Now I've got this is Colonel Ball. Colonel Ball is status 2. He's got 2 points of shock. If he takes off those 2 points of shock on his militia, he wouldn't be able to get them to fire. So I could pick up that card and use it, but then if Tiffin came out, I wouldn't be able to use them. So I'm going to leave that in play. I'm going to leave one of those points of shock on, but I am going to get that formation to fire. And fire with, well, needing 6s to hit. I mean, these guys are really now firing, and they're firing an uncontrolled volley. So what we're going to do to reflect that is we're going to put an uncontrolled volley marker on the table to show that. Okay, so he's got a status of 2, which means he can do 2 things. So he's going to take that point of shock off, and he's then going to get the whole formation, because they're together in 2 groups in a formation, they can be activated together. And we'll put this uncontrolled fire marker down in front of them to remind us that these guys are now just blazing away effectively. However, they're blazing away with lots of dice, even if they need 6s to hit. So we've still got each group generating 9 dice because we haven't had any losses, and he's adding another 2 for his status. So that's 20 dice, but needing 6s. Can we do some damage this turn? Well, there's a few in there, quite literally a few. 3 hits. Now, had that been a first volley, that would have been quite a few more, but just 3 hits on your light troops. So, Nick, do you want to roll me 3 dice to see what the effect is?
Let's see what we are. Don't forget your skirmishes in cover again.
They are, so, another man dead.
No.
Interestingly, you're not picking up shock because those guys aren't too worried because they're operating in their natural environment in the woods. But we can't hit a leader because you can't roll under 1, so just take another man off. I'm happy with that. It's an incremental win. But this is just, you know, another round of fire, another man goes, and for me, that is absolutely enough at this point in time. I've got to try and knock those guys out the game so we can then turn our attention to the big lumbering mass that is approaching us, and I don't mean you, Nick. Next card out. Red flag. So we've got 2 red flags in the open. So I could now activate a unit that hasn't yet been activated, but I'm not going to because I'm holding these open because I'd like to use them for something more exciting. 3 red flags. That gives me an opportunity to activate a leader who's not yet been activated. Now I might like to activate my light infantry leader to try and get him to wake up and play a part in the battle, but I'm still going to hang on because if I can get another one of these, I get a bonus activation, and rubbish as they are, if I can get Colonel Ball's militia firing again and they take another man off, that will be good enough for me. It's swampy to the swamp fox.
C'est moi!
How very swamp-like.
And with 3 flags available.
And with 3 flags available.
Now, the embarrassment of riches here.
Now you've got a situation here which is quite an interesting one because you have got troops in your forward arc of fire and you have got 3 flags. Now intriguingly, whilst your troops are militia and not that brilliant, I believe with 3 flags they could fire a crashing volley.
I think this is true. I think they have the ability to do that.
Right, so there's a question here, what do? You could stand firm, because if you move, that's going to break your formation up,
yeah.
because this broken ground is not good, and these guys are not drilled to move through bad terrain like that. So these guys are in your arc of fire. You'd be hitting on 6s, but you get first fire. Or do you get first fire?
Let's see what it says on their rebel
on their
roster
roster
table.
Yeah, this is an important
these
point
are
here.
newly raised militia,
Newly
so
raised.
they do get first fire.
They do get first fire, right. And do they get, and can they get the crashing volley on?
They can have a crashing volley
on
on
3
3 flags.
So everything's in your favour to an extent. You would get, again, they're poor shots, so you get 18 dice, but Marion is a status 3. That would bring it up to 21 dice. And with the first fire, you'd be hitting on 5s and 6s. And with the crashing volley, you'd be doubling shock. And that is my prime unit.
It's got to be done.
I think.
That's the way the Swamp Fox would operate, mate.
I think you're right. It's very swampy and very foxy. Right. Not quite like that, though. So let's get those dice rolling and see what happens. Whoa.
I think the word is take that.
And party. Right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 7, 8, 9 hits. And as we know, because of our arc of fire, these guys are out of it, but these guys are in it. So all of those guys are focusing their fire on them. 9 hits. I'm in the open for what we are about to receive. So, in the open.
This is going to be nasty. This is taking it in the face.
And remember, shock is double. Let's roll that one again.
Ooh.
Right, that was lucky. Right, 2 dead. And 3 shock. But the important thing is that is doubled to 6 shock. That is a big blow on that unit. Is our leader hit? Now remember, I need to roll under the 2, so if I roll a 1, fortunately not, so it's 2 men, but we need to put 6 points of shock on that unit, Nicholas. And that means that if they if they get much more shock, these guys are going to be going backwards. And one of the things that causes a morale effect in this, a false morale effect, is an involuntary withdrawal. In other words, troops being pushed back by enemy fire. So, lay them on with a trowel, and let's crack on with the next card out, because this is going to be interesting. Right, so that hurt, and that hurt really as a result of this. Using those 3 cards to get that crashing volley really up the ante and made Marion's rubbishy militia that I would not walk on the same pavement as on the streets of Charleston give me a rather bloody nose.
Now, one thing I want to clarify there,
Yeah.
Are they loaded now or unloaded?
Well, they
How
are.
have they ended the turn?
No, they had 2 actions. All they did was they fired and they reloaded. So, no need for any magic smoke. Next card out. It's the magic 4 cards, which means I can activate a unit, a leader who's already been activated. Well, I could activate these guys. They haven't yet been activated, but it would allow them to move. But with that amount of shock on them, they're not going to be moving where I want them to.
And you're activating the unit, not the leader?
No, I'm activating the leader, not the unit.
Okay, so yeah.
So
you could take some shock off and move, but choosing not to do that?
I could do, because I'm still going to really try and punch your lights out over in those woods. So
How nice.
How very nice. So let's go and watch me punch your lights out. Okay, so John Ball's here. His men are firing away in an uncontrolled manner. He doesn't want to stop that. He's happy for them to do it, but he will rally that point of shock off with his first command initiative, and with his second he'll get them to fire again. Remember, we're looking for 6s here, but we do have 20 dice, so I could do with rolling those 6s that you rolled, Nick. 1 jumped out, but that's 1, 2, 3, 4 6s. I'm quite happy with that. That is good for me. So, here we are, Johnny Ball.
Let's see if we can think of a number.
That's right.
We want 4 1s from my
You
perspective.
do.
Well,
and you nearly got them. So all that is 1 point of shock. So, having failed to punch the lights out on my colleague, we go with the next card. It's blue leader 5. Now, blue leader 5
is my
your man in the woods.
And my man in the woods down there, who really, well, they're doing quite a useful job actually down there.
Yeah.
Although they've taken some casualties.
So you've got a choice there. You can get them to fire. You've only got 1 point of shock, or you can rally that point of shock off.
I thought 1 point of shock isn't of concern to me at the moment, even though there are only 3 guys there.
But with him, that will make 4 dice.
Yeah.
Well, it's or they could decide to use 3 actions to move. Because remember, these guys have got a limited arc of fire, and they're firing in an uncontrolled fashion. So maybe legging it across into the swamp would be a good idea.
Yeah, and maybe that's a way to keep our numbers alive for a while. So let's maybe take that.
Let's see you do that.
Right, so we're going to move now with 3 dice out of here into these woods, try and come across into these woods to get ourselves out of the line of fire of that line who are able to fire down straight ahead. So let's see where we go.
Okay, nice roll.
A foot.
More than that,
out,
13 inches.
13 inches, which takes us nicely into the middle of those trees there, just where I want to be.
Yeah. Okay, so the important thing to realise here is that we've got John Bull's loyalists are blazing away, and the problem he's got now is because they've got that uncontrolled fire marker, he may want them to stop firing, but will they? Because at the moment this battlefield is covered in smoke and noise, and these are not well-trained troops. So it may be that his guys just keep firing into that wood, not realising that the bird has flown. What's worrying me now, as we get towards the end of the turn, is that my light infantry, I don't have any flags because I used all 4. So I'm not going to be able to activate them at the end of the turn. So those guys are standing there in bewilderment, obviously trying to resuscitate their dead leader. But leader 4, which funnily enough is him. So we need to roll the dice to see whether he comes round or not. Okay, so I'm rolling. I need a 5 or 6 to resuscitate him. Whoa! He can't do anything this turn, but that's good enough for me. I want him back in action because now my regulars are shot up. These guys are going to be the linchpin of my shoddy defence. Red leader 2, that's important. I'm a bit worried about that militia unit. It's just one group, but I've got to get things happening here. I'm going to get them moving forward because I want them getting in close range and getting, rubbish as they are, getting a decent volley the first time they fire. So I'm going to roll 2d6 and move them forward that distance. 10, big 10 inches. And they're going to move up. They're keeping out of that arc of fire, a bit of an incline, and they're moving up to be able to fire themselves. Just keep that like that. So that's them. What's next? Well, we've got blue leader 3, Nick. So blue leader 3 is a big man for you.
Yeah, blue leader 3 actually gives me some options now. This is Major Horry, who was lost in the swamp. I was very keen to bring this force on in the swamp, but with Marion's forces blocking the way, I have decided instead that this main body is going to have to come on over the ford so we can put the enemy under pressure from 2 directions.
And it is indeed the tiffin. So that ends the turn. What a change of tempo, what a change of pace. A lot of action going on. The Americans really starting to take control of the battle, but what can the valiant British and their loyalist chums do to swing things round? We'll shuffle these cards and we'll find out. Right, so the next turn we're all shuffled and ready. Let's see what happens. Great thing is, with the narrative, I know what I want to achieve, you know what you want to achieve, but sometimes you have to change your plans, as you've already done with that column. Red leader 2, brilliant. That is my militia who've come up. Are they within 12? I really hope they are.
I think they might be.
They're in a group, so they're going to fire there, and let's see what the result is there. Okay, so leader 2 is here. He's a level 1 leader. He's got 10 men, but they're poor shots. So that's 9 dice. So he adds his, that's 10 dice. Now the interesting thing is, because we're muskets and we're in close range, under 12 inches, we're hitting on 4s, 5s and 6s. But what we do get is we get a first volley bonus, which is going to allow us to hit on 3. So I need 10 dice, 3, 6, 9, 10, and I'm going to roll those, and I'm looking at 3s, 4s, 5s and 6s. I've got a 180-degree arc of fire as a single group, so I could choose these skirmishers, but I really want to put the pressure on Marion. I might even kill him. Let's hope so. So that's 1, 2. There's a whole lot of 1s in there, but still got 5 hits. That wasn't as good as I was hoping for, but I'm going to split it because they're in the open. I'm going to put 3 hits on Marion and 2 hits on this group. So 3 hits on this group with Marion are with, and 2 on those. So roll me
Take
the
3
first of all. That's 1 point of shock on them. Desperately upsetting that we didn't do better than that. And 2 hits on the other group.
And 2 hits on the other group. Let's see what we have. Hopefully they're going to roll low again.
Another point of shock. I really need to be putting shock on these guys, because that's the way to win in this. Kills are almost incidental, but it's the shock that should be hurting. Not the best round of fire from me. So let's see what the next card out is. Red flag. Next card out. Interesting. Blue flag. Oh, another flag, and it is a random event. Now, as we've seen before, the unit that has just fired, followed by 3 flags, is going to be subjected to a random event. So what we're going to do is we're going to roll our dice to see what the effect of that random event is.
And because they've fired, it will be a firing random event.
It will indeed. And in fact, I'm just getting the magic rules made, because whilst I wrote them, I didn't memorise them. So we're going to go to the firing random event table, and I'm going to roll a pair of dice.
Ooh.
Double 1.
Double 1.
A nasty discharge.
Not for the first time.
The leader commanding the firing unit is rather over-enthusiastic and steps forward to motivate his men. As a result, he's shot in his backside by his own troops.
Yeah, that figures.
Reduce the leader's status by 1, so he's a status 0. Any leader reduced to status 0 may still use command cards, but that's it. So, a physic, if I had a physic with me, could negate the results of being shot in the arse. But sadly, no such bottom doctors are present.
No, not even here in the Deep South.
Not even in the Deep South. Right, okay, well that was...
And just to clarify now, then, do you also need to roll on your force morale for him being wounded, or is it because it's a random event, we don't count it as that?
Yeah, that's a very, very good question. Let's roll that dice, because he has been wounded and his status has been reduced. Let's try and chuck it in there. But fortunately, that leader, I rolled a 2, no effect. So once again, I've been lucky on my force morale rolls. If not lucky with being shot in the backside. But there we go. So blue leader 3. Nicholas, blue leader 3.
Blue leader 3
and
and 2 flags. Now this is
your massive column.
This is Major, whatever his name is, storming across the forward.
Yeah, yeah.
So
a major arrival.
He is a major arrival, and actually they've got the ability to step out, which means that they can actually move and do more stuff, because they're veteran militia.
Yeah, they certainly can.
We should see how that works.
How that works. Let's see what you're going to do with them.
So here is Major Horry with his 3 groups of veteran militia. He's got 2 flags, which enables him to step out. So step out means that he gets an additional dice of movement, provided he doesn't attempt a formation change. And that suits him really quite nicely. What we're going to do is cross that forward, pile up the road as quickly as we can, and so that we can get in a great position in the next turn, possibly, to form a line and do some damage. So I'm going to roll some dice to move them forward.
Now you normally get 2 actions, but because you're a column and staying on the road, that goes up to another one for 3.
Yep.
And you get step out, that makes 4.
So I'm going to move up the road with 4 dice.
Yeah.
So let's see what we get. 14, I make that. So 14 takes them nicely to just beyond the bend in the road. So we're going to just pass straight up there. Come, sir.
Okay, gosh, that step out bonus has really changed things. You guys are really moving up. I've got troops here completely uncontrolled. I'm starting to get worried. The only thing I've got that's good that's happened is that my light infantry are there. Let's see what we can do.
Next card out, please, Richard.
Red flag. I could activate a unit that hasn't yet been activated, but I really want to do these clever things that you're doing with these crashing volleys. So I'm going to keep going. So leader 4, that's my light troops. Now I've got that leader, he's a level 1 leader. What I could do is activate them to fire and pick them up and rally all that shock off them. But I'm not going to do that. I'm going to just use 1 to do that, because that takes the shock down to 1, so they're still getting 100% fire effect. And I'm now rolling 7 dice there. But before I do that, I'm going to do something even more clever. They're light troops, so they get a bonus move. So I'm going to advance 5 inches towards you, which brings down the range, so I'm in close range. And that will really, although I only go 4 inches because I've got shock, point of shock, but that's going to allow me now to fire where I'm hitting on 3s, 4s, 5s and 6. So these guys are really in your face. Let's see what we can do. 1, 2, 3, 4 hits. Now, you have got 3 groups there, so they all share the love, so they all take 1 hit each, and 1 group takes an extra point, so I'm going to put that on your lead unit because that's got the leaders with it. So roll 2 dice for your lead group, please.
Okay.
Right, 2 points of shot.
Put those on.
Yeah.
Away. 1 there, 1 there.
And 1
then
dice
1
each
point on
for
the
the
one
2 units at the back. Nothing on that middle group. And a point of shock on the rear group. Right. Well, if the worm's turned, it's only turned slightly, but at least I feel a bit better about that. And I'm going to play a card to see what's happening next. Blue 2.
Okay, leader 2 is controlling these group of skirmishers here. Now they're firing from cover, which makes them more effective, and they're going to shoot at these guys out here who are their obvious target in front of them. So we get 6 dice, leader is 7 dice, so 7 dice would be needing 4s, 5s and 6s, but because they're skirmishers firing from cover, they get a +1, so we'll be hitting on 3s, 4s, 5s and 6s.
Yep.
Let's see what we get. That looks like 6 hits to me, or even 5, because I've only rolled 6 dice.
So roll that 2 again.
Let's put that
I'll
one
roll
in
that.
there. Okay, so that still looks like
5 hits.
5 hits.
Right, and I will roll my dice. These guys are in the open. They don't get any benefits of cover. So let's put that down, see what happens. Oh, loads of 1s and 2s, so just 1 point of shot.
Drat.
I
drat,
should be
and
so.
double drat.
I should be so lucky. Lucky, lucky, lucky.
Okay, let's see what cards out next.
Yeah.
Right, I've got control of the card,
Oh,
so
no.
this will make all the difference now. So we've just played blue leader 3.
Yeah.
Now we need a blue flag, which is
Alright.
lovely, and another blue flag.
So we want
2
another
blue
one for
flags.
some bizarre random event that see you shoot yourself somewhere unpleasant.
Do you feel lucky?
No.
Okay. Blue leader 1
Ah.
with 2 flags.
Ah.
I knew that taking control of the card deck was a good idea. So this is the Swamp Fox himself with 2 flags.
But remember, he's firing uncontrolledly. So if you want to change your target, you'd have to try and get them under control.
Well, I'm quite happy that we're doing lots of
these
damage
guys
to the
are-
British regulars.
That's
Actually.
right. But
So-
you need 3 flags to do a crashing volley, so this will just be an ordinary volley. You've used your first fire, so you're hitting on 6s, but even so, that's still 21 dice.
Yeah, and we take a point of shock off as well, can't we? On
He can take 2 off because he's a status 3 leader. He's the biggest leader on the board, which is what happens when you live in a swamp.
21 dice. Not great from my perspective. Now 6s hit, so we've got only 2 from all 21 of those dice. 2 hits, Rich.
Well, 2 hits could be enough because these guys are on 6 points of shock. Oh my God, 2 dead. Right,
Great. That's
let's see if it's a leader. No, but 2 men dead is absolutely key here, and the reason for that is going to be pretty plain to see. When you look at that unit, they were already on 6 points of shock. So, but at least they had 6 guys there. Now, taking those 2 guys out, we haven't had any additional shock, but we have more shock than men. We don't count the leader in this calculation, just the men. And there are 4 men, 6 shock, which for regulars means that they fall back 2 inches, which I won't bother to measure because we're playing among friends. If that was conscripts and volunteers, that would have been 4 inches. If that was those guys over there, they would have been flying back 6 inches.
Brilliant.
But the key thing for Nick is that is an unwanted withdrawal, and we roll our dice, and that sees our force morale drop 1 point. Troops do not like seeing friendly troops being forced back by enemy fire, and that is the first thing that's had an impact on our force morale. So, Nick, while you're cheating so well with the cards, why not
We'll keep going.
turn another one and see what other hideous event you can create for me?
So the flags are still out because I didn't.
You didn't use
any
them,
flags
no.
there, so they're
It's funny,
still
you
out.
could have added another couple of dice, but to be
Yeah,
honest,
well, I'm
when you're
happy
hitting on
with it.
6s, what's the point?
Indeed. So next card out is, sadly for me, red leader 1, and there is a red flag available.
Well, what I want my red leader 1 to do is to stop his unit firing in an uncontrolled manner into the blue and move into a position where they can take on Nick's massive column. And I'm going to issue that order. The question is, are they going to do it? They are only going to obey that order on a 5 or 6. They fail, so they're just firing away at the target that they had been firing at before. All that smoke that is billowing out here, they're just firing into it, thinking that the enemy is still there. That's the disadvantage with militia and uncontrolled troops. Right, next card out, and I'm dealing it this time. Red flag, followed by Tiffin. Now, we got 2 blue flags out, we got 2 red flags out. Have we had any leaders who haven't yet been activated? We have, actually. We've got red leader 3, and we've got blue leaders 4 and 5. Well, red leader 3, of course, is my regulars, and your units 5 are your...
They're the skirmishers who first started the game
who
over there in
moved
the
so
woods.
cleverly away.
Yes.
Blue leader 3, I believe, is the...
And we've got the secondary leader here, I think, is leader
that's
4.
right. So the only people that haven't been activated are those guys there and my regulars here. But my regulars, well, they're not in a great shape. But what I'm just going to do, and I think, frankly, they might already have done it, is they've just already fallen back outside of range. But what I'm going to do, you go first because your force morale is higher, but it's not going to affect this unit. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to roll a couple of dice so they go back. Shock doesn't affect them when they're moving away from the enemy, and they're just falling back behind their camp intentionally to try and rally off some of that shock in the hope that that leader comes out. Because if you move forward and take another shot, those guys are going to be running. I don't want that. So you can activate your leader over there while I shuffle the deck in anticipation of the next turn.
So I have 2 leaders who can activate over here. The first one being the guy in charge of the skirmishers.
Yeah.
Now he can put some fire down possibly from here. So let me see what fire options he's got. Well, we can shoot at the back of these guys here. We're not quite.
No.
We're not quite behind their flank.
No.
Or we can fire on these guys here, the light infantrymen. I'm going to fire on these chaps from the side. I think that's give them a burst from there. I've only got 3 chaps there now.
Yeah, you've got a leader, but the leader doesn't count when you're activating on a card. So just 3 dice. You're hitting on 5s and 6s. It would be 6s. No,
So that's a miss, and they're still unloaded because they go through the same activation. And the other activation here is my secondary leader here. Now he's going to take some shock off.
Because you're activating the unit, not the leader, at the end of the turn. So
Right,
there's
so
no
that
shock
doesn't
coming
happen.
off. No.
Yeah.
So that's it. So that's the end of the turn. Well, the pressure's on. Red flag, first out. Second flag, blue flag. Third, another flag. Now, that means that even though we've had an end of turn, the last unit to activate fired, so we've got a random event. So Nick, let's roll a couple of dice to see what happens with that unit.
And that was my skirmishers
Yeah.
who are over there in the woods. Rolling for the effect of the random event then is a 6 and a 1 or even a 7.
7. Smoke. A pall of smoke hangs across the immediate front of the firers. Right, now what does that mean? Well, firing through this will be at a -1 to hit unless the smoke clears up on the chapter end. If the unit moves, the smoke remains where it is. So basically, with this black powder battlefield, that is going to cause some problems, because if your guys are hitting on a 6, they wouldn't be able to hit at all, but they're hitting on a 5 or 6, so it means they're going to hit on a 6 in future. So they're probably going to want to be thinking about moving that position.
Indeed.
Let's roll
they probably will. Let's go where we go to next.
Card. Red 4. Now, red 4. Great one. It's my skirmishers. Now, they're on the road. They're in close range. They're hitting on 4s, 5s and 6s, but because they're light troops, skirmish troops and light infantry in particular, they still get the bonus at this range. So they're going to be hitting on 3s, 4s, 5s and 6. And because of that, I'm going to add this card in and make that an extra dice. So they're rolling 8 dice at your column that's coming down the road. Let's roll the dice and see what we get there. Everything but 1s and 2s count. So that's 6 hits. Now, importantly, that's 2, 2 and 2. So each of those groups takes 2 hits. So let's start with the front.
At the front.
Okay,
4
2
and
points
3.
of shock. So all of a sudden this shock is mounting up. If that column wants to move, it's got -4 inches of forward movement. And roll me 2 dice for the next unit behind. Another one, just 1 point of shock there. It's the head of the column that's really suffering here. And the unit at the back. Okay, just 1 point of shock there. So we're going to pull the next card. We've used that flag. Hey, we've got a red flag. Now I'm going to leave that open. I'm not going to do anything yet. I actually... no, I'm going to leave that open. Right. Blue leader 2. Blue leader 2 is your...
Blue leader 2
skirmish troops.
is the skirmish troops over here.
Yeah.
Under Captain Waits. So again, we're going to be putting some fire in. So this is a straightforward
7 dice.
7 dice.
And again, you're at close range, so 4, 5 and 6 is normal, but because you're skirmish troops firing from cover, you add that and it's 3, 4, 5 and 6.
Which is
And
5
and 2s. Right, 6. And that's your roll. No.
5 hits, I think it was. 5 hits.
No, 6.
Okay, right.
6. Fortunately, one of us can count and do numbers, so away we go. What's the effect? Well, there's no dead, but my God, that's 4 points of shock. That is upsetting them, because the quality of their leaders are so low, their ability to rally that off is really, really limited.
Well, also, if you remember, he's now at level 0 after he was shot in the backside by his own men after the last random event. Or a random event.
He's not having a great game, is he?
He isn't. So, keep going.
Blue flag. You've got 3 blue flags out. If you get another one,
Which I have.
you've got a complete bonus activation. Now, that allows you to bonus activate a leader who's already been activated, or activate a leader for free, so that if his card subsequently comes out, he can be activated again.
Yeah.
So now you've got options here. Now you might want to put the pressure on here.
Yeah.
You might want to say, actually, I'm going to move these guys out of this rough terrain, because hopefully they'll get to go again and form up.
Mm-hmm.
You might want to start rallying that column in the hope that they get activated again and can strip away all that shock.
Mm-hmm.
What are you going to do?
I quite like my best man at the end there, the Swamp Fox himself.
The big fella, right.
The big fella out. Get them out so they can add some withering fire when they can onto these chaps.
So let's go forward. 2d6. This is going to break that formation, but ho-hum, because you're hoping to get the card out again. Get his card out again and be able to form formation. Nevertheless, it just takes you through those rocks. It just gets you through those rocks. If he can activate again, they're going to be able to click into formation. So that's the opportunity taken, really, I think, what's probably the best moment, especially as my regulars have run away and apparently not coming out again. So blue 3.
Now blue leader 3 is major
major disaster on the column.
So again, he needs to take some shock off,
Yeah.
and ideally get these guys in a position where they can do more stuff. But I think taking the shock off is the key thing.
Yeah.
For him to be doing at this point.
So 2 points of shock off probably off the lead unit is the best bet.
I think for sure.
Okay, followed by next card out. You got it, leader 1. So for the first action, they can just click together because they're close enough, within 4 inches.
Yep.
So they can now, for their second action, they can fire. And look who's right in front of them. Now they're not great troops, but at close range with muskets, it is not difficult. They're going to hit on 4, 5 and 6. It will mean that at the end of the turn, we lavish some of Santa's beard on them, but to represent the fact they're unloaded. And again, what we're going to do that we didn't do before is we're going to put an uncontrolled fire marker in front of them, just so it reminds us that they're firing in an uncontrolled manner. Now you're firing on the leader, so you're going to get 18 dice plus him. That's 21 dice, and those hits are going to be going in there. And remember, 4, 5 and 6.
There's actually 20 dice plus him.
There are, but they're poor shots, so they lose 1 per group.
Right, okay.
So that's
how many dice have we rolled?
21.
21. 1, 2, 3,
21
4, 5,
today.
6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
Let's watch Nick count. He's really good at this.
11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21.
Brilliant. It's a great to watch,
Just about
mate.
enough to fill the dice tray.
Yeah.
And they are all come up 6.
Well, you don't even need that.
No, so we're hitting on
4s.
So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
Only 10.
Only,
Right.
only 50%.
Nevertheless, we've got a target in the open, not looking good. And we'll roll those dice and see what happens. We've got 1 man dead, and we've come out of it better than you could have hoped. We've got 3 points of shock. So let's add those 3 points of shock on. It means we haven't actually fallen back. It's not as bad as I thought. Let's see the next card.
Tough old battle, this one.
I was lucky there. They really could have been running backwards. Another couple of points of shock. That would have been another involuntary withdrawal. Leader 1, red 1. Well, this is the guy I need to do something. I'm going to issue in the order. I'm not feeling confident. I need 5 or 6 for it. No, a 2. They're still blazing away into those woods over there. Tiffin. That allows me to activate 1 group that's not yet been activated. Well, the best way to check that is by looking through these. The only group that's not yet been activated are the regular infantry and their leader, who's really letting me down. These were the boys that I thought would be nimble and manoeuvring round, giving the Yankees a bloody nose. Not Yankees, rebels, different war. But Yankee Doodle, I guess.
Forward thinking, I guess.
Forward thinking, yeah, that's right. And we are in the south, so they're probably rebels is the best thing to call them. Right, so do the shake and vac, put the freshness back in that deck, and away we go. See what cards we get. A red flag, followed by blue leader 4.
Blue leader 4 can do some shock removal.
4 for sure.
So he's the guy with my line over my group.
So
here.
that's your secondary leader. He's a level 1, so he can just take 1 point of shock off. Because it's a formation, he can take it off any group in that formation. Blue 5, now that's your leader who's hidden by a huge pool of smoke.
Yeah, so he needs to move really, because that pool of smoke is not doing him any favours, so he's going to move round in the woodsley. He's got a point of shock, which will take his movement speed down a little bit.
Yeah, but he's got,
past me.
He always gets an extra dice of movement, so roll those 3 dice. And
zoom. So that's...
and we're going to take a point 15 off per dice in that swampy stuff there, so we're going to go 12, we can still go a foot. Yeah.
In the middle of this part of the trees here, I'll just take that little tear out.
Okay. But he's still unloaded and we've got the smoke there to show that. Next card out. I've got the deck the wrong way up. Let's give them a quick shuffle. Right. Right. Blue flag. I shuffled that because I could see what card was at the bottom of the deck, and it would have been unfair if I'd known that one of Nick's units wasn't going to come out. So quick shuffle will change that. So it's a blue flag out, next one out, blue leader 3, which was actually at the bottom of the deck a moment ago.
Well, that's handy. Blue leader 3 is my he's the major, isn't he?
Yes.
So
level 2, but he can use his flag to make himself a level 3 and strip, I don't know, maybe strip 2 points of shock off. That would just mean that he only had 2 points of shock on that whole formation, so he's really rallied them up. Maybe form up in a line and get shooting.
We do that, so take 2 off.
Yeah.
There we go.
And because of this, they can just use one action, clack, 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 to form themselves into a line. And with your second action, why don't you present, are your troops capable on your roster?
They're veteran militia.
They're veteran militia. Can they deliver a controlled volley? They can, but only one. But why don't we do that? Why don't you present in order to give that controlled volley when they're next activated? Because that will really boost and enhance their first fire with another +1. Right, so, and it's blue leader 1 is the next one out. The cards are really running in your favour in this turn. But lovely to see this story. So that guy who looked like he was in trouble on the road has really done well to, him and his secondary leader, really done well to rally those troops up. They've got them into line. Their men are presented ready to deliver a controlled or maybe even a crashing volley if you get the cards.
Yes.
Now, what can you do here? These guys are on the edge of running away. You can reload, fire,
That's the thing to do.
and be unloaded. So once again, we know it's 21 dice. So that's 21 dice.
And what are we hitting on this time?
You're still
The
hitting on
range is
4, 5s and 6s because they're still in range. So this could be absolutely critical.
Oh, there you go. We're ready to roll?
Yeah.
21 dice then.
Yeah.
21 guns.
4s,
my
5s
word.
and 6s.
There's a lot of 1s staring at me from there.
It's just funny
1,
because
2,
looking at it from here, I think there's a lot of 4, 5s
3,
and 6s.
4,
Yeah.
5, 6, 7.
Well,
So I think I was right. There's a lot of 1s in there.
there are, but frankly,
However,
7 could be enough. That's 6. I need one more. Let me roll it. So they're all on these guys here, and we're looking at 1 dead and 1, 2, 3, 4. It can't be the leader because these are regulars shooting at it. So it's just a man and 4 points of shock. Can you pass me 4 points of shock from the shock corner,
yeah.
please?
Shock alley.
Shock alley. Right.
That is a shocking
Alarmingly.
shock.
That is a shocking amount of shock. You're not wrong, mate. Right. Now, you got 12 points of shock on 8 blokes. That's an excess of 4. As we saw a moment ago, a regular unit that takes excess shock falls back by 1 point for every excess shock that is on the unit. But this is a militia unit. They fall back 3 inches for every excess shock. So we got 4 shots, so they literally fall back 12 inches and they go straight away from the enemy. Now, intriguingly, straight away from the enemy means that they collide with this unit here.
In a way that only happens in war games.
In a way that only happens in reality. In running away from that enemy fire, they have disordered that unit. Now, they have 4 excess points. 8 men, 12 points of shock is 4 excess. So this unit here picks up 4 points of shock.
So they get one of the things in sharp practice is that ability to, the shock becomes almost
That's
contagious.
Right. And what we're also doing is we're rolling for a unit that has involuntarily withdrawn. And that's another point off my force morale. So that is not good at all.
So your force morale is now on 7.
7. It's all looking a bit disastrous for me. Let's see what the cards can bring. Leader 2. Well, funnily enough, that's the leader who's just withdrawn there.
He's a status 0 now.
He's a status 0, but there is 1 flag out. Do I waste it on that unit? Or, do you know what I do? I waste it on that unit because he's going to move them away from them. He is going to move them into the pub. Because if they fall back again, they're going to just go straight through that unit. So we do that and take that off. So these guys are withdrawing into the pub itself. So I'm just going to put them over there for now. And they are not happy, but I've used that flag in doing that. So let's see the next card out. It's a red flag. Followed by a red flag.
3 flags.
3 flags in a row. Well, the last unit to be activated moved. So let's roll 2 dice and see what the effect is on that. Well, I've rolled 6.
So a 6. Step out, lads. The unit has a spring in its step. Well, that's hardly surprising.
Yeah.
Unit may add 1 more d6 of movement immediately.
Right. Well, we'll go out the back door. So I think in that situation, they're just going to go and hide in the backyard of the pub because it just means that they're completely out of the way. If their sergeant can rally them up there, well, good luck to him. It doesn't look particularly promising to me.
Things are looking pretty grim now for the
They are.
sides
They are.
of the
Red leader
king.
3 though. Red leader 3 is my lieutenant. My Lieutenant Parsons. Now he's status 2. His unit's got 6 points on, so I can take 2 off. But I can also burn these 2 flags to enhance his level and take another 2 points of shock off. He's only got 4 men, but at least I'm trying to get them rallied so they can do something. Next flag, card, Tiffin.
Tiffin.
That's the end of the turn. There's no flags in place, so nobody can activate. So, next turn, it's looking bleak for me. Let's hope. Red leader 4. He's your subordinate leader. Now, they're presented that unit, aren't they? But they can't actually fire on the subordinate leader, but he can take a point of shock off.
Then that's what he should be doing.
That's what he should be doing. That's exactly his job. Those secondary leaders in any formation, their job is to do the housekeeping effectively to keep everything tidy and in order. Next card out is a red flag, followed by red leader 3. Now that's good news for me. Red leader 3 is Parsons. He's got a status 2. I'm adding the flag. Well, I'm not actually. He's got status 2. That allows him to take 2 points of shock off. I'm adding the flag, and he's going to activate them, and they're going to move double one. They're going to move 2 inches forward.
It's not easy to move through a campsite. There's all kinds of stuff in the way, guide wires.
Yeah, good. Right, blue flag. It's not his day, is it?
It
Parsons has
It isn't.
leader 1. Now,
Swamp Fox.
you're going to want to get them. Well, are you going to want to get them under control? Because look, within range, you're only going to be hitting on 6s, but within range, you're firing into the flank of those militia. You're going to double any shot you get on them by firing at them. You're only going to hit on 6s, but could be big.
Could be. We like big.
7, 10,
We can test
13,
your counting abilities.
17. We can.
17.
There's 20. You get a 1 dice penalty for being bloody cheeky. Right, here's your additional dice.
Thank you very much. Okay,
Right,
here we
so
go.
this is it. Absolutely key, because this is right in the flank of those troops.
And we're hitting on.
6s.
Well, I can see 1,
I can
2,
see
3,
5,
4,
6.
5, 6.
3 hits and 3 hits. So these guys have already got 4 shot where they were wanged into the side by those routing
So is that
troops.
doubled?
So that's doubled, so that goes up to
So
another
that's
2.
1 point shot goes up to 2 points shot.
And the next unit with 3, all of a sudden, they get 6 points of shock on them because it's coming in from the side. That unit is really, really not liking that situation.
And does being shot at from the side or from the rear, does that count against you in terms of your force morale, or is that
No,
something
just
that
double
comes
shot, which
in
is going to
terms of
create
this
enough
game?
problems as it is. Talking of which, it's him, Red Leader 1. Now, what's he going to do? Well, he can certainly rally 1 point of shock, and he's going to try and get them to stop firing, and he does. So they will obey his orders, which are going to be to move. Well, thank God that happened at the right time, because he's actually going to get them to move with 1 dice in that direction.
So much shock, though.
4, yeah, but that only takes it off when they're moving towards you, and he's not doing that at the moment. So he's going to move 4 inches in that direction, and then he's turning to face. Actually, I'll tell you what he's going to do. He's not going to do that. That's ridiculous. So he's going to move all the way there, and I'm just going to point these guys at the end to show that these guys are actually in a column at the moment.
Yeah.
They haven't had enough actions to turn to face.
So they've done a left face and
they've done a left face and they've moved into this position behind here. They are obviously taking all their shot with them, but what they're going to be able to do is once they get, they're going to have to turn to face, but then they can fire, and at least they're going to be putting pressure on you. And that's turned the tables a little bit. I feel a bit happier about that. A blue flag coming out there, followed by another blue flag, followed by leader 5. Who's your leader 5? That's your snipers over there, the skirmishers.
Yeah, this is the guys who are in the trees over there. We can see them just behind the rocks.
So they've got 3 dice. Well, they need to reload and fire, so leave the smoke there, and they'll get 4 dice there, and presumably they're firing at the light troops.
The only target really.
So they're hitting on 5s.
So that's 1 hit.
1 hit. I'll roll for that in the middle. No effect.
No effect.
So what's the next card out? A red flag, followed by red leader 4. Red leader 4 is this skirmisher here, this skirmish unit here.
Who seem to be rather holding it on their own at the moment. There's a bit of a cauldron they're in.
It is. They're not in a good situation, but what can they do? They're gonna use their additional dice of movement to manoeuvre so that they're out of your line of fire. They are then, they've had to use his flag to do that, obviously. He's had to use the flag to do that, to activate them, because he's still a good leader, isn't he? Yeah. He's the guy who was shot in the unpleasant parts, so he hasn't had to use that. So he's used their extra dice of movement to take them there. Then he's going to fire from the flank, well, not from the flank, but out of their angle of fire at those guys. So what's he hitting?
Ouch.
3s. So that's 6 hits. So again, 2, 2 and 2, please. These light troops are some of the best British troops in North America.
2 on the left.
Yeah, 2 shots.
Points of shock. Yeah, let's keep this going on as we go.
Yeah,
2 points of shock there.
Right.
In the middle.
Yeah. 2 points of shock.
And on the right.
2 dead.
2 dead.
Ooh,
well, they're closest.
Nasty.
So
yeah.
2 dead off the end.
That is nasty.
Off the end as well.
Right. So, Tiffin. Now, intriguingly, you've got 3 blue cards.
And Richard, do we need to roll for the leader, hit on the leader there?
No, you don't. He's actually,
there,
they're all in that group. You've taken a bit of a risk plumping all your leaders with one group, if I'm honest. But
well,
there we
maybe
are.
Next time round when they're activated we can distribute them
better. But okay, so you've got 3 flags, so you would go first. Who hasn't activated in your team? Well, these guys haven't, so they can on the flag. And for me, the only guys who haven't activated is this crazy lunatic hanging out the back of the pub, and he can't. His unit, well, they're so covered in shock, they're not going to do it. So it's just fire those guys, and while you fire those guys, I'll get shuffling for next turn. So they've got that's these guys here.
Yeah.
So probably they're going to be hitting them on 5 and 6 again, aren't they?
Yeah. So that's quite a long way there now.
That is. Hence 5 and 6. Yeah. So you want 6 dice. Because remember, when you're activating on a flag, you don't activate the leader. Okay, 2 hits. Let's see what we do with that. 1 point of shock. Right. You didn't like that, understandably. Straight into the next turn. Red leader 1. Loads of shock, but he's got to activate them because he wants them to turn to face. Funnily enough, moving those light troops has actually stuck them right in the way, but he's activated them and he's taken the point of shock off. He's turned them to face. He can't present because
they're in a bit of a mess, aren't they? He needs to spend some time getting them organised and
getting
getting some shock back.
He does, but what he really needed to do was to get them to turn to face, which he's done. Right, leader 5, blue. That's the woodland folk over here.
Yeah.
So I presume they're going to be putting pressure on my lines.
Yeah, well, we'll fire over there.
4 dice.
4 dice they will use.
There you go. Is no hits.
No hits.
So next card out is Tiffin. No flags. So a very, very quick turn.
On into the next.
A little bit of a quick bonus for you in a way, or no, a bit of a bonus for me probably. Got me out of your way. So we will split the deck, quick shuffle, and blue 3. Blue 3. Now, that's your commander of the large force in the middle.
Yeah.
Now, he was presented, which probably doesn't do him any favours now.
No, because they've got nothing to shoot at
No.
in their.
So he probably wants to take point of shock off and then try and get them to wheel.
Indeed. So let's do that. Point of shock off of there.
Now, wheeling with militia is not easy, so roll 2d6.
Finding 2d6 is even more difficult
Well,
when you're standing on the wrong side of the table.
and he moves the lowest one, so they'll just move 1 inch, and we take that present off. So they actually have to pivot on one end of the line.
Yeah.
So that's all they do, that's all they manage. So this is where nimble troops can move around units who are...
So I rolled as poorly as I possibly could have done there.
You did, you
that's the way it goes sometimes.
That is the way. So leader 3. Now leader 3 is Lieutenant Parsons. Now he's going to use 2 dice, and he's going to move 6 inches there, because he's intending to come out and try and play his part now, followed by a red flag, followed by blue leader 1. Ooh, well, you have probably, I've probably moved out of range. Yeah, so they're out of range. So you probably want to get them back under control. And as we know for militias, you roll a 5 or 6 on a d6 and you will stop them firing away into the blue. No, so they're just crashing away.
Keep firing.
Red leader 1. Well, red leader 1's got a flag, so he's going to take off 3 points of shock. And burn that flag to do it, because he's really trying to get those militia rallied. Followed by blue leader 5, which is the swamp living people. Yeah, 4 dice for them.
Firing at the light infantry, obviously.
5s and 6.
And that's 3 5s.
3 hits. So I'll just roll my 3 dice for
effect. What we want is 3 6s would be good.
We count as in light cover, so we ignore that 3, but that's 2 points of shock. Now, all of a sudden, 4 points of shock means they're losing 2 firing dice. They're starting to look a bit shoddy. Tiffin. Oh, quick turn.
Great.
Stop it. Yeah. Okay, first card out. Oh, red leader 3. Now, this is Lieutenant Parsons. Lieutenant Parsons is feeling aggressive because these guys are firing into the blue. If only they would move a bit faster. If only we had a step out card. But he's moving round to try and make the most of this flank. Quite what damage he can do with just 4 men, I don't know. But Swamp Fox is next out. You want to try and get them under control, Nick. Then you can respond to what's going on.
No.
You fail, so they keep firing away. Red leader 1. Well, these guys are still in front of him, so he's going to use that opportunity to take as much shock as possible while he's got those skirmishers covering his front. There's a red flag. Shame he didn't have that. That would have been nice. Blue 5. The most consistent unit in the game, I reckon, are those guys.
Well, let's see if we can keep some shot going in on
this could be key, couldn't it? This could be key.
That's
1 hit. It's
good.
a dead.
It's a dead
now
one.
it could be on a roll of 1. It could be my leader. That's a cocked dice. No, now that's key because we've got 5 men of 4 shot. They are near the point of starting to go backwards. 2 red cards out. Blue card out. Blue card, right, 3 in a row. That means we've got a random fire event. Nicholas, I'll roll the dice. You read me the rules.
See if I can find the rule.
It's about page 24.
Yeah, no, I think you'll find it's on 2030.
Right, it's about page
30. 2010 it's on. Oh no,
right.
It's not, it's on 29.
6.
On a 6. We're beating them, boys. Unit is inspired by their firing and remove 1 point of shock from all groups that fired, which is useful because they have got 1 point of shock.
They have.
So that's a nice way of getting rid of that.
Yeah, that's right. Some of the random events are sometimes good, sometimes not so good, but never awful. Well, unless you get shot in the arse.
Situationally dependent.
Blue 4 is your subordinate leader there. Now,
2 flags.
You've got 2 flags. He's a status 1 leader. You could strip 3 points of shock off if you wanted to burn your flags on that type of action, or you could leave them open.
No, I want to control that. I want to get this unit Shock can very quickly overwhelm this unit, so I want to make sure that we keep it under control.
Okay, so they're burning them and away they go.
So we'll take 3 points.
3 points of shock. So really getting them under control. A blue flag comes out, followed by red leader 2. Now red leader 2 is the lunatic behind the pub. I'm going to ignore him because he's as safe as he can be, and these flags I really need to be doing something positive with. 3 red flags. Red leader 4. Red leader 4 is these guys.
With 3 flags.
With 3 flags. I'll tell you what I'm going to do with them.
Talk us through what you're deciding about.
What I'm deciding about is this. I could move them round to the flank and try and get them out of the way and then rally them up on the riverbank and come back and hit them in the rear. That would then allow me to shoot with my militia. I could use all these flags to take off all the shock if I wanted and not fire, or 3 points of shock and fire. And let's face it, they've been pretty effective when firing, but the problem is they're now coming up against some other good troops, and 2 units of them firing at them is a pretty uneven match. I'm going to go 3 dice and move away from the enemy. Now I've got 4 points of shock, but I'm moving away. I'm intentionally moving away, so that goes 9 inches over there. And he is going to worry about shock later, because I really want these guys to start firing, because I want them to be putting that shock on that you don't like. 4 flags. Now I've saved my flags because I wanted a bonus, and I am going to use it to activate Colonel John Ball, and he is going to rally off 1 point of shock, and he's then going to fire. Now each of his groups has got 2 points of shock on it, so rather than the 9 dice that they get as 4 troops, they get 8 dice per group. So that's 8 for the first group, that's 4, 8 for the second group, and 2 for him. So I'm hitting only on 6s, but you know, a good roll. And that's a good roll.
Quite a few 6s in there.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's 2, 2 and 2. That's the type of roll that if I'd been able to combine it with fire from these guys who, as we've seen, have been consistently putting on the agony, I could start really doing something. So 1 dead and 1 shock. So here's your shot, mate, and take a dead off.
Thank you.
A little drummer boy, drums no more. 1 point of shock.
And on the end
is 1 dead and no shock. So we're starting to whittle away at those units.
You are.
Whew, this game is a game of turns and other turns.
It is.
Leader 2, blue leader 2. Now blue leader 2 is Swamp Boy.
Yeah.
I don't know that he's got anybody to fire at now.
Well, I think he might have to come over to the left here.
I think he's probably going to come
firing against these red dots.
Okay.
So he can move along in the trees there, because he keeps his bonus when he's in the trees.
Yeah,
so he wants to stay.
He's in the swamp, so he takes off a bit per dice. But yeah.
So he can move.
Still go with 3 dice because he always gets that extra dice of movement.
So he's rolled a 5.
Bit rubbish.
And he takes 3 off.
Yeah, so he goes 2.
Moves 2.
So a bit inert. So 2 flags out. Blue leader 3. Now, interestingly, he's there. There's only 1 card left, so you know what it is. Everybody's been activated. You may as well take all that shock off that central unit. So all that good work I did ended with a long turn where Nick was able to rally the shock off. Okay. Red 2. Well, red 2 has been shot in the backside, so can't do anything on his own card unless he has flags. Oh, red 4, an interesting one. That's my light infantry leader. He's going to take a point of shock off there. At the moment, getting that shock off is quite important. If he can get them rallied up and then back in the action. Red flag, if only I'd had that before. That coming up. Another red flag. Another red flag. Well, interestingly, 3. A random event. Did he fire? No. Did he move? No. Now that means that there's no random event. Okay. I didn't shuffle them very well, I think. But I'm going to take advantage of that.
4 red flags.
And I'm going to get these guys to fire. Am I? No, I'm going to get these guys to fire and activate this leader again.
So this is your your bonus move, basically.
Yeah.
From 4 flag, give you bonus activation.
Yeah, exactly. So you've got 5 men there and a leader, that's 6. And we're not firing on the flank, but we are still hitting on 3s, 4s, 5s and 6s, so that gives us 5 hits on you guys there.
Very painful.
Yeah, now I get to place the odds, so I'm going to put 2 on there, 2 on there and 1 on there.
So 1 on this end.
Yeah. Is a man dead? Ooh.
2 in the middle.
Yeah. Yeah, 2 shock.
And 2 on the right.
Yeah.
Is 2 shock.
Right. Okay.
Ouch.
Next card out. Blue 2, big blue 2. Is this guy here.
Yeah, so he's moved across to this side,
Yeah.
so he's going to move with 3 dice again, and hopefully he can
Do
get some
better
legs
than
on
last
this time. Well,
Right.
not many,
So
but
5,
he's going
6,
to go
7,
6 or
7
7
inches.
Which I will measure, because
With a magic
playing
measuring
against
machine
a
here.
notorious complainer like yourself, I'll make sure we move the correct distance.
Blue leader 3 next out, Nicholas. That's your central unit.
Blue 3. Right.
So
we'll
he's
try
got
and get
1
these
point
guys
of
in
shock
action.
he can
Yeah.
rally. There are no flags out yet.
And he can potentially move them as well, though.
No, because he's... Oh yeah, sorry, he's the senior
he's the
leader.
main
I
leader,
apologise.
yeah.
So he can
So
take...
we want to try and will these guys around.
Yeah. So you can take 1 point of shock off and still activate them.
Yeah.
Okay, good call. So
So we're wheeling
2d6.
and we move the shorter of the 2 distances.
Yeah. 3 inches. Well, that's not too bad. No, longer than
Longer
2.
too.
That's not too
Longer
bad.
too.
So
Okay.
just put him past those rocks. We'll just get him past there.
No, that's not quite.
Yeah.
Like that.
Okay. Right. And blue flag, Tiffin. So 2 units that have not yet been activated can try and activate.
Ooh,
Now if they
yeah,
activate,
obviously.
they will simply fire because you need
Yeah,
his leader
yes,
to
do
change
that.
them. They haven't
But
activated.
they haven't really got.
No.
They can move. Though.
Yeah, they could move.
So they could move now.
Yeah, and
so-
that will be it. And I've got no flags out. I'll give these a really good shuffle because I didn't last time, and I kind of got.
So if they're breaking out of here, they can go.
Yeah, just straight out.
Right.
And we'll give it a shuffle and come back for the next turn. Okay, first card out is Colonel John Ball. So what I'll do is I'll take a point of shock off there. That reduces their shock to a point where they've got 9 dice for 1 unit, 8 dice for the other. Chuck me a couple of dice please, Nick, for himself. And again, we're hitting on 6s, but we're putting a bit of pressure on you over there. If I can get a good roll, it would have been nice to have had a crashing volley. That's just 3 hits, so 1, 1 and 1. But 1 dead.
Dead.
Another one. That unit's starting to look sorry. Point of
Shock in the
shock.
middle.
Yeah, I've got a shock. Okay, you got that. And there's another shock on the end. So starting to look a bit sorry. Followed that up with blue leader 1. So that's Swamp Fox.
We've really got to get these guys to stop.
These militia are really just wasting time, aren't they? Roll a dice. Can he get them to obey him? No. These guys have just been recruited, and you can tell. The blue flag out, followed by a red flag out, followed by a blue flag out. Well, actually, they fired. Because he couldn't control them, they fired. So we're going to have a random event for them firing.
So random event for them
So
firing.
I'm going to roll 2 dice, and we'll see what that is.
And I'm going to tell you
That's
that
8.
an 8 random event on firing is 3 rounds a minute. The unit immediately takes 1 additional firing related action.
Well, that's good to see. They've reloaded. Right,
Well, that
okay.
gets, at least we can see the beautiful figures now.
You can indeed. Okay. Red leader 2 is the lunatic behind the pub. We'll ignore him. 3 red flags out. Okay, what are we going to do with that? Tiff in. That annoys me. Now, we've all got quite a few units that haven't activated, but I'm going to take the first one because I've got 3 flags, you've got 1. So I've got 5 guys down to 4 dice there. They're going to fire on your unit there. They're hitting on 3, so that's 3 hits. So 1, 1 and 1.
1. Point of shock.
Yep.
1.
Nothing.
And 1.
Point of shock. So the shock's going on there. So that was me. You've got a blue. So you can activate a unit that's not
So
yet
I
been
don't think
activated.
these guys activated, did they?
No,
They should
so
be then.
these are a bit low-hanging fruit. I'm
Yeah.
keen to get them playing, but there we go.
Really,
You're
I'd
hitting
really
on
quite like to do some damage to them.
5s and 6s, and you get 6 dice. So there you go. Let's see what you're rolling.
2.
2 hits. So I'll roll my 2 for them. It's a man dead. Is it a leader? It's a British leader. Right. Let's roll the dice for that. It's a 6. He's dead. British leader. Dead. It's 2 off my force morale.
Well,
Right down to 5.
Crucial. That is a crucial.
That's a crucial.
Lucky shot from the grassy knoll. Well, not maybe the grassy knoll.
Right. Okay. Well, who activated in that turn? My leader 1 did. These guys haven't activated. What they're going to do is they're going to fire on my next flag, and they're going to fire on these guys here. Are they within 12? Now remember, they've got 180 degree forward arc. They are, so they're hitting on 4s, 5s and 6. But remember, this is their first shot.
Good lord.
So they're hitting on 3s. Their effectiveness has been minimal. Good job they're hitting on 3s. I've rolled 3 3s and a 1. So we'll put 2 on the group with Marion. 1 point of shock and nothing. So just 1 point of shock on them. And I've got a card left to activate, but everybody in my force has been activated, apart from the lunatic behind the pub. First card out, leader 3. Leader 3 is this guy here. He's dead. Let's take him out the deck. That's that.
Hurrah!
Red flag, nothing on its own. A blue flag, nothing on its own. Red leader 4. That's your subordinate commander there.
Absolutely. So he can take some shock
He
off.
can take 1 off, and if he wants the flag, he can make that 2.
Just take the 1, I think.
Okay, leave the flag in play. Okay, leader 5. Swamp Fox. That's him over there. Yeah.
So I want to get him moving around with his 3 magical dice. If you've
Well, why don't you
3
reload
magical dice?
and rather than carry that smoke around with you, and just move 2 dice.
Okay.
6, right. And while you're doing that, we'll look at the next one. Is leader 1. Well, leader 1, as we know, is Johnny Ball and his jazz band. So he takes 1 point of shock off, which puts them back up to 20 dice. So that's 5, 10, 15. 1 more dice, please, Nicholas. I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll roll 19 and then I'll roll another one again. Okay, I'll take that one and roll it. Okay, great shooting. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. These Lard dice are available in our shop now. Right, 7. 7 hits. So I'm going to put 3 on the central unit and 2 on the wings. Oh, am I? No. I'm going to put 3 on that unit because they've got so much shock on them. I want them going back and breaking the formation.
So there's 5 guys there and 4 points of shock. So they have now got 1 more point of shock.
My master plan didn't work, but another 1 point of shock and it would have done.
And then 2 in the middle?
Yeah, 2 in the middle. But it won't kill a leader, but 1 man off and 1 shock.
If you can find me a shot marker, I can add that in there.
Shot galore, mate, over here.
And then for the next guys, 4 and a 3.
2 points of shot.
2 more shots.
So how many men have you got on that group there? 3.
So it's 5 with 3.
Right.
5 guys with 3 shock. 7 guys with 2 shock. And 5 chaps with...
So it's been interesting to see that unit come in. It hasn't fired yet, but they've been shot a bit.
Away.
Yeah. Blue 1.
Never been able to get the opportunity to put any fire in. Right.
Swamp Fox and the Firework Brigade.
Yeah,
still blazing away.
Well,
yeah.
Let's see if these magic Lard dice can roll something that I knew.
Oh, the Swamp Fox gets them under control. So what's he going to do with them?
Wow.
You could break formation and charge with that one over there. Because I've got no leader. I'm better than you, but I'm a half group. You're a full group.
I think the only way we're going to win this is by taking them out of the game.
Yeah. I think you're right. I was counting on you not being able to.
Well, let's go over there and beat them up.
2 dice to move in that direction.
After all, they're not wanted around here.
Indeed. So by breaking formation, that allows you to just lead this group over and really get aggressive. You take an inch off for movement. They're there, but I think just saying, look, let's forget this clever formations because you're obviously not very good at it. Let's just go and smack them in the chops is probably your best bet at this point in time. But let's try turning the deck the right way up. Red leader 2. Red leader 2. Hold on a minute. Yeah, red leader 2 is the guy behind the pub.
He's kind of out of it, really, isn't he? He's had such a walloping that
he's been shot. So I don't want to use the flags for it. But Tiffin. Okay. Well, the Tiffin is going to allow me to fire that group over there. It's only 4 dice, but I'm hoping to do 3 hits. So 1, 1, and 1. So again, if I can get that unit at the end.
On the left-hand end there
is a point of shock.
Have you got a shot marker?
I've got luxury ones, mate. Luxury.
In the middle
is a point of shock. And on the end, and this is key,
is a dead man.
Right.
Which suddenly means they've now got 4 men and 5 points of shock.
But more importantly, it means that they withdraw 2 inches. Now the funny thing is they aren't actually militia, although they are militia, because they're veterans, they're conscripts and volunteers. Which mean with 1 additional point of shock, they withdraw 2 inches. So that's an involuntary withdrawal. So roll the dice for your force morale for that. 3.
It's a 3.
So no effect. Now you've got a choice. You can break formation, but 2 inches is within their wiggle room. You could fall at that with it, because they've got the flexibility to do that, and maintain your formation, thereby avoiding that roll.
That's the way to go, I think.
That's the way to do it. I think you're right, mate. So that's the end of that turn.
Okay, take it away, Rich.
Leader 4.
Red leader 4.
Now, leader 4. That's my guys down there. He's got no flags. Yeah. So he's now firing with 5 dice. 5 men down to 4 because of shot, and 1 up for him. So 4.
That's 5
so,
there, Rich.
yeah, that's 5. That should be 5, and it's 5 hits. So that's nasty. So I'm going to put 2 on the end, 2 in the middle, and 1 on there.
2 on the end.
2 on the end. 2 points of shock.
You got some more markers?
I have indeed. 2 in the middle is 1 point of shock. I've got it here, and 1 on the end. Right, now what is interesting there is that group there has got 4 men and 7 points of shock. That exceeds it by 3. They fall back 6 inches. So that unit falls back 6 inches, and that is outside your wiggle room. So not only have we caused an involuntary withdrawal,
but the line breaks.
But the line breaks, which is something really, really nasty. So will you roll me a d6 for your force morale there, please? An involuntary withdrawal, you pull back 1, you drop 1 on your force morale, and then I'll just check the rules. And the force morale there again, for a formation breaks, roll the dice for that.
A 4.
Is another 1 point off for that.
So
your force morale is starting to tumble. If I can keep the pressure on, who knows? Blue flag. Red flag. Are we going to get... No, we're not. Blue leader 3. Now, he's your...
That's the major area of these guys. Well, he's got a tough job to do now. To try and manage this shock effectively, because he can do little else other than just manage shock. They're taking so much incoming fire that unless they drop back, he's got to try and manage the shock, I think. So
he's got 2, and he's got a flag if he wants, so he can take 3 off in total.
No, I'm going to leave the flag.
Right, so he's going to take 2 off. Right, okay. Next card out is another blue flag, followed by a red flag, followed by a red flag. Now that's a random event. Now the last unit that was activated actually was my unit over there firing, because rallying troops is not an activation. So we're going to have a random firing event for that. And let's roll the 2 dice, Nicholas.
It's a 6.
It's a 6, it is indeed. And a 6 on a random event is we're beating them, boys, and inspired by their firing, they take off all the remaining shot, the 2 points of shot, 1 point of shock on each group in that formation. So a great roll there. Blue 2. Blue 2 is your light infantry unit here.
They've been masked. They were shooting on these guys.
Yeah,
And they've been masked.
I think they are masked, but they can use their d6 to move out and shoot at them.
They're going to need to do that.
If they roll well. If not, roll 2d6. They won't get a bonus, but
we'll just roll. We'll roll 2d6 to make sure we get the shot. I think.
Okay.
Because my dice roll is not
So
really
5.
great,
So bring it out to here. We'll throw them all over the table, but you will get the shot. So you're not going to get a bonus because you're not operating from cover. However, you are still going to roll 7 dice, hitting on 6s. So, and remember, they're a leaderless unit. They're an orphan unit. They
So
really
can you pass
are.
me 4 dice, please?
Gonna hurt.
When you can.
I certainly can. Oh, right.
3 or
2 hits. 2 hits.
6 hits hit there.
So on a weak unit like that, a man dead, it's not looking good for those guys. Blue 4.
So he's going to take some shock off over
Yeah,
here.
right. So he's got, if he wants it, he's got 2 flags.
Okay, so he can move. Now they're both with this central one.
Yep.
If he moves to this one
Yep.
and take one off.
Yep. Another blue flag. And
The 5 is here.
It's there, that's right.
So we're going to move these guys.
So they can see them, because remember that doesn't break line of sight, but it does count as cover.
No, okay. However, we want to be in the cover because then we get a bonus for our fire.
You don't, because we're a bit too close there.
Okay.
But you're going to be outside.
So we're getting a fire from there then.
Right, okay.
So we've got 4 guys.
And I would suggest that you are getting that bonus there. So roll those dice and you're hitting on 5s.
2 hits.
Not nice. Count as light cover, but that's still a point of shock, which we'll put on over there. Next card out, leader 1. Now, the question here for me is he in range? And he is. So, he's also got 3 cards, so he's going to fire a crashing volley. That, potentially, it really depends on how many 6s, and it's a risk, crashing volley, when you've only got, when you're only hitting on 6s, but if we double shock, we could really do some damage. 1, 2. A bit rubbish, but there we go. Oh, sorry, 3, 4.
Very good. So 2 and 2
Yeah.
on the left.
Yeah. 1 point, if shock becomes 2.
2 points of shock.
Oh, so that's 5 men on 5 shock.
And in the middle,
Yeah. And that's another 2 points. Shock becomes 4.
4 points of shock.
So, good lord, you really are under a lot of pressure there. Right. But nobody's
holding.
nobody
So
falling back.
7
Nobody.
with 6 and 5
Yeah.
with 5.
Blue leader 1.
Well, we want to go over there. So this is the Swamp Fox who wants to.
Swamp Fox wants to go into fisticuffs, and look,
Yeah,
you
how
could
many
add a
flags
whole
you got?
lot of flags into
Let's
fisticuffs.
make sure of these guys. I think.
Right.
We're going to
Okay.
take that point of shock off as well as we go.
Well,
We
he
can
could
that
indeed do that. Yeah.
to make
So
sure that we give them a good bloody nose.
let's play fisticuffs. Now,
Send this home to King George.
right, is this. So we've got line troops, but 50% or less. So I get 3 dice for that. You have got line troops, so you get, but you've got a whole group, so you get 6 dice for that. So then we look at quality level, and we make adjustments for that. So each leader attached adds 3 dice for his status, which is what you get. Any command cards which you're playing 3, you get 3 dice for that. Each quality level higher, well, I'm 2 higher than you, so I get 4 dice for that. That's it. And remember, we're looking at 5s and 6s. Okay, so I'll roll mine first of all, and I've done 1, 2, 3, 4 colossal 6s.
Wow. Holy moly.
Yeah, well, let's see where you go. With a rebel yell, you cried
And
more,
I haven't
more,
rolled
more.
a single 6.
Excellent. Well, a roll of 5 inflicts 1 kill on the enemy, so you've killed one of me. However, a roll of 6 inflicts 1 kill and 1 point of shock. So I've done 4 kills on you. Let's roll to see if it's Mr. Swamp Fox. And it is.
2.
Roll a dice to see what the effect is.
It's a 5.
Okay, so he's lightly wounded. So you roll twice on force morale because he's a prominent leader.
Our first roll on force morale is a 1.
Well, let's see what that means. So force morale is a status 3 leader wounded, is 1 point off your force morale, and roll again.
The next one is also a 1.
And that's take 1 point off your force morale.
Right, we're
So
down to
you then
5
lose
now.
3 men, and you also take 3 points of shock. But the big difference is you've lost by 2, which means you are thrown back 9 inches facing the enemy, and you add 2 points of shock. So you need 5 points of shock on them, and you test for being involuntarily withdrawing. So don't mess with British regulars, even if you think they're about to run away, is the message. So,
Or roll better dice.
tough turn. Red leader 2 is in the pub and a tiffin, and that's
I don't
that
blame him.
turn.
I wish I was with him at the moment.
Has the turn wormed?
That's the turn wormed.
Ah, blue
He's a
5.
He's over here, so we're 5 plus
Yeah.
there. We really want to inflict some damage on these light infantry.
Right, he's a reliable man there. 4
He
dice,
has been very reliable,
1 hit, which is nothing.
but not that time.
Oh, leader 1. No crashing volley this time. Red leader 1 is still going to roll his monster truck's bucket of dice. So many dice we have to move the terrain.
We'll have to get bigger dice trays.
5 6s. Well, 1, 2.
Just 6s, luckily, not 5s as well.
Yeah, 4s. So that's 2 hits and 2 hits.
2 and 2. Now this is going to be crucial because they're right on the edge.
Absolutely
When it
crucial.
comes to the shock. So
You-
2 on the right.
Yeah, is a
Is
man dead,
man dead.
and a point of shock.
So they
So-
now have 6 men and 7 shock. there.
Right, so they will go back 2 inches, but let's see what happens here.
And then on here we've got
No effect.
No effect.
So they will fall back 2 inches, and they can conform to save the formation being broken, which they should do. But you still roll for a bad thing happens on your false
So
morale,
force morale is now really starting to suffer.
and it's
We're on
down
6.
to 6. So
No, sorry, it's down to 4 now.
yeah, sorry,
So
4.
5.
Ooh, wow. So at the end of this turn, you'll lose a flag out of the deck. So that is bad news. Red flag, followed by red leader 4. Well, red leader 4 is these guys over here. Now, if you're still in range, and you are, I'm going to take a point of shock off there, and I'm going to fire at you. So I'm down to 5 dice, but I'm hitting on 5s and 6s. 1, 2, 3. And I'm going to put the 2 hits on this unit here.
So 2 hits on there. Oh, great roll for me. A 2 and a 1.
Great roll.
And 1 on the other one. It's
There's
also
nothing.
a 2.
Ah!
A bit of luck.
I thought that was going to be it.
Good Lord.
Another point of shock, they'd have been going back again. More force morale checks. I've used that flag, but there's another red one out, followed by another red one. Ooh, no, it's Swamp Fox. What's he gonna do?
Well, he's attached to these guys here.
Yeah, he's got 5
So,
points of shock.
So if he can take some off and get them to...
Yeah, why don't you take 2 points of shock off and get them to 5? Because there's so few men left that just doing that, you're going to be hitting on 4s, 5s and 6s. You get 6 dice, but you also get Swamp Fox's 3 dice. Can the Swamp Fox save the day? 1, 2, 3, 4.
4 hits.
It's 2 points of shock, which is just not enough to... which is just not enough to force them back. But they're not looking happy then. There's no way that they're looking happy. A blue flag, followed by, if these guys come out, blue flag, which if you save a flag, they will do at the end of the turn. You should have them running. Another blue flag, red 2 is Pub Man, followed by Tiffin. So, you
Okay.
go first.
So we're going to start over there.
Yeah.
That's, hopefully
I think you're right. So you've got 6 dice hitting on. Let's check the range there, mate, because it's pretty close. It's just out, hitting on 6s. because you're not getting the light infantry.
You're going to give me 5 dice there.
I've got to try and win somehow.
Naughty boy.
Niet! Nostravia. Okay, nothing there. So, I get to activate a unit that's not yet been activated, which are these guys. Well, I might as well shoot at him. They might kill him. Right, 2 hits. Roll 2 kills, and one of them could be your swampy mate.
Yeah, could be, yes. Well, I haven't rolled any kills.
No, but you've got 2 points of shock. This is where we need. I'll tell you what I'll do.
I've got 2 points.
There we go.
There we go.
Okay, I've got them there. So a red flag out, followed by blue leader 5. Well, Mr. Consistent,
Mr.
over
Consistent
there.
over here, he really needs to get some shock on these chaps. So let's just see the action down. Here we are on this.
Right, so you've got 4 dice there, and you're hitting on 5s and 6s. Because you're firing.
Come on, fella. 2.
2 hits. So you don't like that. It's 1 point of shock. So.
They're up to 4 points of shock now. Next card out.
And we've got red leader 1. Now he's got a flag, and he's going to spend it. He wants every dice he can get to do you damage. So that's 4, 6, 8. You are 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, and another 1. Only 6s hit.
Are your hands big enough, Rich?
Only 6s hit. 1, 2, 3, 4 hits. So that's 2 hits per group. Surely this is going to be enough to see you running away. So 2 on this leader here is 1 point of shock. Now that's going to push them back. Let's put it over there. 1 point of shock. I'll use these ones that these fellas left behind. And that's a dead and 1 point of shock. Now, that means these guys have got 6 men and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 points of shock. So they go back 4 inches. These guys have got 4 men and 6 points of shock. They go back 4 inches as well. So you've got 2 involuntary withdrawals, but it doesn't break the formation because they happen to be retreating at exactly the same speed.
Through this pool of smoke.
Through this pool of smoke, which is still there. Right, so big punch on the nose for the rebels there. Nick, you need to roll me 2 force morale points.
4.
1 off.
And a 2.
There's nothing off. So,
so
this is really close. But both our force morales are getting to the point now where at any moment in time they could collapse. Leader 4 is my light infantry. He's got no flags. Are you in range? You are. However, I'm firing through a pool of smoke, but if I can just get them to go, I'm going to risk it. I've got 5 dice firing. I would normally hit on 5 and 6, but it's a pool of smoke, so I'm hitting on 6s. 1 hit.
1 hit.
Roll the dice on that unit. If you get a shock,
it's worse than that, Jim.
It's worse than that. He's dead, Jim. Now that could be your leader, so roll the dice to see if it is, because it's 1 shot. It's not, but he's dead, and that means they withdraw. They've got, blimey, 5. Well, they just went back 4, so they'll be going back 6 inches. So that is an involuntary withdrawal and a break of formation. So roll me a force morale for that. For you obliged to withdraw, first of all.
A 5.
Is 1 off your force morale, and formation broken by fire.
A 5.
2 points off.
That takes them to the big fat 0 in the sky.
Wow.
Which means that after a bloody fest of
what a game.
Musketry, the loyalists claim the day. Well played, mate.
Well, what a game. Do you know what? For 75% of that game, I thought I was just being steamrollered. I was so desperate, I bought this rubbish unit of 4 men out, which actually nearly cost me the game. I would have lost like 2 or 3 flags out of the deck at the end of this turn, which was my chance of then doing improved stuff. The unit that were complete heroes were Ball and his men, who are. I've played this scenario 5 or 6 times, and they are rubbish. But today, they just rolled those 60s and kept putting the pressure. And you came over the bridge looking cocky and, hey, we know what we're doing. We're the best militia in town. And you just didn't even get a shot. You got shot to bits.
Militia as well, and they just got shot to bits. They didn't even get any kind of momentum going at all. I think the Sword Fox, you know, he came out of the woods to surprise people. He launched an attack on the regulars. He took the regulars out.
He took out the militia.
He took out the militia in the middle, but it wasn't enough to break the force morale. It was nothing else happening. And when these guys failed really to have any kind of impact on the day, once it started going wrong for the militia, it was very hard for them to recover.
It is. My 2 earliest force morales, or at least 2, I rolled no effect. Had I rolled effect, I would have been at the one at 0, you know, earlier than you in this turn. So it was that close. The whole thing hinged on the final turn. And as you say, what's so fabulous about this period, it's not like the Peninsula where you've got regular troops. These guys need to be nurtured and looked after, or they can really, really fall apart very quickly. And even Marion the Swamp Fox, dusting it up with the British regulars, or not, just wounded.
This is it. Well, this is untried troops, isn't it? You know, you're getting into action with untested militia.
These guys
Brits show some backbone, and they don't like that too much.
No, that's right. And the fact that you decided to put pressure on in 2 areas, which I thought was going to absolutely win it for you, especially this manoeuvre around the outside, meant that where am I deploying? I can't form a big battle line to deploy to face you. I've got to deploy to face in this direction. But what a fight! What a fight in the end. And those British light infantry troops showing their worth. And again, actually, it was the skirmishers in this who really, really dealt some damage.
Consistently good on both sides. I mean, my skirmish troops were never able to inflict enough damage to actually, you know, push troops back. No. But I always felt they were really, really the useful thing for me to have that kept you under pressure. And I needed the lines in place to actually exploit that, and wasn't able to with this key one here from the Major in the middle.
Great narrative, great story. You could read about that in a book, couldn't you? Well, if you could read.
Yeah. I could colour in the jackets. They're red over there and sort of a brown.
That would be nice. Well, hopefully you can do some colouring at home, and you only enjoyed watching us play Sharp Practice in our own rather useless manner. But there we go, that's the first battle from Lard TV, and we'll be back with many, many more, as usual displaying our inability to remember the rules, but hopefully our ability to have a great time with a battle that produces a fabulous narrative every time. So,
beer o'clock, mate.
Beer o'clock, mate.
Yeah, absolutely.
Good night. Leader 5 is the first card out. Now that's a blue leader, we can see, because the card is blue and it has the writing on it is blue and it has leader 5. Now that's one of your leaders, Nick. Who's that?
That's a really good question, because I've only got 4 leaders.
Is that right? Well. Have you? No, you haven't.
Yes, I have.
No, you haven't, you dickhead.